Makeup show. What are the odds? Welcome to it with one half right now. Barnes is going to be here in a little bit. I'm Baris, the People's Pundit. Don't forget, if you like the videos, to like them and to share them far and wide. All right, before Barnes gets on, let me just give you guys a little bit of a warning. While Barnes is doing his thing, all right, I'm going to be shifting back and forth between the spreadsheet. Because for those of you who don't follow on Locals, which you should, it's right there, peoplespundit.locals.com. A little backed up because the internet was out with this snowstorm. And like, even though I guess the point of the redundancies was kind of pointless because if one thing happens, apparently none of it matters because of the overlapping companies. So whoops. But in any event, now that I'm back up and going, I'm looking at it right now. And I really do think that this is probably the most illustrative thing that we could possibly show you guys about what has gone on with the Trump coalition. And again, I'm a big stickler on people cherry picking data to make their own argument stronger than they are. The left did this. We started talking about this a little bit before we went into the weekend and we had the storm. The left did this ahead of the 2024 election, and they deluded themselves into believing things that were not true. And the right is doing it now. And in politics, just like anything else in life, if you don't recognize that you have a problem, you have no hope to fix it. So I'm going to be working on this while Barnes kicks it back and forth with me so we can show you this. There's a lot, that we're going to try to sneak in here today because the hour really is getting late for Republicans. And I'm going to try to squeeze this intro with these caveats or these like prefaces, right? Or this entire preface before Barnes comes on, so I don't interrupt what he wants to tell you about. But there are a lot of people who you'll hear say things like, it's still very early. And even myself, I catch myself doing it. But in truth, we are already well into the point where a generic ballot is very predictive of the overall popular vote winner, and how many seats that ends up in the House or how that works out in the Senate is a different story. It's a little bit more nuanced, of course. But as far as who wins the popular vote at this point, it's actually the case that we're already well into the point where it is predictive. In fact, going back before the holidays in the modern era, back in November, when we first started to talk about this, I tried to explain to people that we're already at a greater than 70% likelihood that the winner, the leader, the current leader on the generic ballot has a greater than 70% chance of going on to win the popular vote for the House. All right. Now, that does leave a good chunk of other election cycles where we did see that wasn't the case. But I'm telling you, that is not normal. And in fact, what is the norm is that from that point on until the midterm elections, it is on average the case that the party that was losing will lose by a bigger margin than November showed, but by a roughly 5-point spread. All right. So let me bring on Barnes to say hello. And there's so much to talk about here. And then Robert, hello, bro. Welcome to the Makeup Show. While you're talking, I'm going to work because I'm so backed up. I'm going to work on those numbers that I've been trying to show people, which is the real apples to apples. I think we may be the only pollster who can show it because we were also asking retrospective approval going into the the 24 election. So a lot of people are doing like these apples to oranges bullshit that we saw Democrats do before 24, which isn't true. I'm going to compare this poll to an exit poll. I'm going to compare approval to vote share. I'm going to compare approval to favorability. Like, that's all bullshit. That's apples to apple bullshit. You're cherry picking, and I'm going to show you what the real apple to apple is, and it's not good. All right. So welcome aboard, brother. How you doing? Still stuck out there, I see.
Yeah, out in Long Beach. I have a legal case out here that we're working on. So today, Richard and I, on this version of What Are the Odds, 105th edition, we will cover what is happening at the Justice Department.
Yeah.
In terms of the Ed Martin disclosures, the Epstein disclosures, the Jean Pirro going on about taking away people's Second Amendment rights that she was trying to walk back today. Some people are confused and concerned with what the heck is happening. Is the weaponization division been shut down? Is antitrust going to be proactive or not in the healthcare space, in the agriculture space, in the tech space? Is Harmeet Dillon at Civil Rights going to incorporate as part of that the lawfare that's been going on that Ed Martin was supposed to be coordinating with her? Has that been shut down by Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche? So we'll get into some of that inside information and intel about what is happening in Trump's Justice Department, or as Mike Cernovich is even now calling it, the Injustice Department.
Yeah.
The second aspect we'll get into is what are the most popular issues for primary voters out there. So if you're out there competing, we're going to, for this edition, focus on the Republican primary voter. We'll do another later one on the Democratic primary voter. Though a little sneak peek preview, what Richard and I predicted almost a year ago now. You can just follow Bernie Sanders' feed for what Israel is becoming a political pariah in both parties, but especially within the Democratic Party. Third, we're going to take a look at what are some of the more popular personalities in the primary voter electorate. Here again, focusing primarily on the Republican primary electorate. Some of the names probably won't surprise people, but some of the names will. We'll just sort of give the broad overview, the broad strokes. 1776 Law Center is commissioning a poll with Richard to do an update to the Four Freedoms poll we did in the summer of 2024, so that we can take that information and share it with people in the administration, but people on both sides of the Hill and people at the state level, because there may be some surprises in there. I was in Tennessee 2 weeks ago trying to shut down an effort to grant special immunity to big chemical companies, pesticides especially. We were able to do so for the time being, but people may be surprised at what are some of the hot button issues in the Republican primary electorate. And then last but not least, two other topics. What are the updated odds for the national electoral environment heading into the midterms for 2026? And one of the particular risk points for the Republican side of the aisle is whether there's continued accountability on Epstein, what happens on tariffs and the rest. But it's happening right now. The domestic political risk, if we were to get involved in a war with Iran. And so we'll be covering those topics on this edition of What Are the Odds? And then if you have a question, just put in a super chat and we'll get to it at the end of the show. And if you want to troll, you just got to pay the toll. So as long as you put in the super chat question, then troll away. So this edition will break down from when Richard and I were up in D.C. Has some insights there about what's happening at the Justice Department that we heard from a wide range of sources. Those people out there trying to guess the sources, you can please stop telling Harmeet Dillon that she's got to tweet that she has to block Viva Frei to prove that she wasn't one of our sources. So
yeah,
in all those efforts, good luck with it. That's not the right productive path. So it's a good, robust edition of this rare Tuesday version of What Are the Odds, since Richard got snowed in there in North Carolina.
Woo, man, this was like the craziest snowstorm. I got to go back and look. There was two records previous, 1 and 2, set in the 80s. This was, we got just slammed. I don't want to spend too much time talking about the snow because my God, but we got by about like 8 o'clock, and it was not supposed to stop until the next day. By 8 o'clock, my precipitation meter had already filled up to the max, which is a 12-inch precipitation meter. It was huge. Thank God I bought the Wagoneer because this thing was so much fun. I packed the boys in the car on Saturday night. It was crazy. I was like, let's get nuts. And, this is the other people were stuck, and we actually were able to help, which was cool because other people were stuck, Robert. They couldn't make a clearance. Like, guys, if you're in the South and you don't know how to drive in the snow, don't drive. Just stop. Stay in your goddamn driveway. The Lord help me for using his name in vain. Let me just point this out real quick because you did bring something up, and I kind of want to start with the DOJ. It does seem like, for the better part of 6 months now, it has to be. You and I have been going, we gave them some time. Everyone has they need growing pains. They need time to settle in. But it was obvious from the very beginning that certain bad actors had too much power, and there was complaints from the very beginning. Even people who were decent people trying to work at the lower levels saying, look, we actually have a lot on the desk of Pam Bondi. And I know the U.S. attorneys are getting blocked, so we understand. Give it some time. But there's something else going on here, which is it seems to us like we're trying to hold certain people accountable, but because they have connections to Pam Bondi or Pam Bondi has friends who have connections to them, this stuff was getting shelved. So it was more than just Pam Bondi's a stupid bimbo who doesn't know how to do her job. It was more than that. So in the beginning, a lot of people were saying, I think maybe Pam is just in over her head, which I still think is true, Robert. But I want to bring your attention to this because this is a pattern we've been seeing for a while. Brianna Morello tweeted on X. I saw you retweeted it. I immediately saw it and I was like, oh, she's dead right. And then I even added more to it because if you know people, then you know what's going on. And Brianna, this is what she said, and then I'll add to it. But I'm seeing a recurring pattern at the DOJ. Certain DOJ employees are deliberately leaking false stories to the mainstream media. Their goal appears to be forcing out MAGA-aligned DOJ personnel. And just to add to this, she's dead right. And I added, yup, they and their lobbyist friends. They leak. Then they accuse the MAGA folks who are the targets of the leaks, of the leaking itself. And then they put it all in writing for Democrats to find later because they're freaking stupid. Like they're not even good crooks. Like they're stupid people and they don't understand, like you're a Republican in DC and they're going to eat you alive for this later. Now people are starting to catch on even when we're looking at DHS, the Kirsty Noem stuff. She's not going to survive much longer. Everybody knows it. So, people are slowly but surely catching on. But Robert, this is what sucks to be like people like us. Like we're living in the future and we have to watch everyone catch up. And it's really frustrating because by the time they do, it's basically too late, which is like the point of the show today. Like you have to turn a corner right now. It can't be a month from now. It can't be, the generic ballot history is very, very clear. You have a deficit like this at this point in the game, you're more than now it's more than 74% likely to go on to lose the popular vote for the House. So while it's not impossible, there really aren't last minute changes that can course correct. And they're talking about doing even dumber shit anyway. So it's like they're headed in the wrong direction. Ed Martin's getting pushed out, right? It's almost a certainty. Let's cut the shit. It's almost a certainty that Trump's going to help Israel and with Iran. And these are all deeply, deeply unpopular things to do right now. And this is what they seem hell-bent on doing. And I got to be honest, I'll break some news right now. Meeting that just occurred yesterday with the president. Like this guy was resigned to lose. He understands they're going to lose. And he's like, now I'm going to get impeached. Well, but it doesn't have to be that way. This inevitability shit bothers me, Robert. Like it didn't have to be this way. It didn't have to be inevitable. And now the president himself is like, we're fucked.
Well, yeah, I mean, the underlying data show and past historical trends show that it is still a live, dynamic electoral environment, and the president and the Republican Party has exceptional opportunities to course correct between now and Election Day, though it needs to start happening sooner rather than later because the clock is definitely ticking. So for those that are unaware, so within the Justice Department, there's a wide range of people that are MAGA aligned. Those include Ed Martin, who was originally appointed to be a United States attorney for the District of Columbia. He was blocked by the corrupt deep state senator Tom Tillis of North Carolina, who is now stepping down, but the seat's likely to go to a Democrat unless Republicans course correct there. I mean, there is an opportunity in what they do in the primaries to make certain seats either more safe or less safe, which we'll get to a little bit later on in the show. But so and then Ed Martin went on to coordinate the weaponization task force, which would involve the civil division, the criminal division, and the Ketam division, along with the civil rights division. And the point and purpose of that was to correct all of the abuses of power that took place under the Biden administration, but it also preceded that, the Russiagate attacks on President Trump of the Obama administration. So to find something, this involved, targeting women who were targeted for trying to get on school board activists. Yeah. This includes people connected to the medical freedom movement in COVID and who are subject to censorship. This involves anybody connected to January 6th. This connected to Russiagate and Spygate and Ukrainegate that were efforts to take out President Trump and his allies. There's still rogue actors present trying to harass Tulsi Gabbard as we speak.
Yep.
So the goal was to purge the Justice Department of those bad faith actors. And for those that may not remember, the Federal Bureau of Investigation is under the control and supervision of the Justice Department. So that was, and he was assigned to the Weaponization Coordination Task Force to get that done, including things like the lawfare against Alex Jones, the lawfare against Tina Peters, the lawfare against Kurt Benschoof in Washington. That's the man who tried to stand up against his son being turned into trans by his prostitute ex-partner, who had a lesbian love affair and had corrupt connections to the Seattle judicial branch, who's currently serving 10 plus years in prison in the state of Washington because of it. So, and there's many other cases like that across the country. The targeting of Amish farmer Amos Miller. These are some of the cases I'm aware of because I'm involved in the representation, but it's just the tip of the iceberg. So Ed is, for those that don't know, Ed Martin comes from Missouri. He was tightly involved with Phyllis Schlafly. She was one of the great populist conservatives in American political history, tight with Patrick Buchanan, who also, by the way, came from or worked for, he grew up in D.C., but worked for a long time in St. Louis as a St. Louis reporter when he attended and supported the civil rights movement, which people on the left tend to forget. You know, young Pat Buchanan was there cheering Martin Luther King when he made his march on Washington. But one of the great populist conservatives in American political history, who the Trump administration should give a Medal of Freedom to. So that's who Ed Martin is. He's someone who has great confidence in the MAGA base. And he was brought in to clean this up. Also, all pardons were supposed to go through Ed Martin, so he could make sure the pardons were justified pardons, not people doing pay-for-play scams or schemes with Roger Stone, who's out there shaking down people for lots of money in order to get pardons for people who do not deserve those pardons that are an embarrassment to the Trump administration, pardons that later on may be the subject of impeachment proceedings.
Maybe. I mean, let me just stop, and because I'll let you fly. I just want to say, like, Democrats, you know it as well as I do. They already started on this shit. They're already looking into it. They're like, all right, this pardon went to so-and-so because, and I actually, it's funny you mentioned Stone, like, and Roger's always been good to me, man. He's always been good to me. But look, I know somebody who was like meeting with Trump the day that he got that pardon for a certain somebody that is just indefensible. Cernovich went nuts on it on X. And like, it was gross. How it went down was just gross. And this idea, they did lie to the president and say, oh, he wouldn't have been convicted if it wasn't for this really bad guy who turned on guys, a fucking drug dealer. Okay. Like a big drug dealer. I'm not talking about somebody who's slinging some nickel bags and trying to make a living and feed their family and put diapers on their baby. All right. I'm talking about a big drug dealer. And these Democrats are going to have a field day with this shit. And that was the first, to me, that was one of the big first indications that Ed is getting pushed aside, because Ed has no problem going on War Room. He will deal with the War Room audience. Like, that's how you know, because he does, you said it, you really said it. He has faith in average people. That's the difference between MAGA and everyone else, Republicans, Democrats, whatever. MAGA has faith in the wisdom of average Americans when you tell them the truth and you give them all the information and you stand by them and you don't betray them. You know that they'll do the right thing by you. Ronald Reagan had that, by the way, too. Even though he wasn't super MAGA, I mean, he had it. And that was like one of the first indications that this is a problem. Because these pardons are not going through Ed Martin. These pardons are going, and Democrats are sitting there like Dr. Evil, like, like they can't wait to drag these up. And ultimately that may be how they get him, because they're going to go after all the people around him. If Noam even survives that long, we all know what they're dragging her with. It'll be a national embarrassment. Okay. And then they're going to, try to go after others. Bondi is a big problem for him. So you have to replace these people. By the time you're politically wounded, you can. And then where's Ed to help you out? Oh, you fucking fired him. And you replaced him with a guy who was a Democrat until 2 years ago. The only reason why he even does half of the stuff that are good now is because he's a survivor. He knows how to survive in the permanent political world. So he's like making moves that flatter Trump and flatter people now so he can live to fight another day later. These guys are experts at it. I mean, they really are. They haven't survived there this whole time, Robert, through thick and thin, Obama and Trump. And they haven't done all that because they're idiots. You know, they know how to deal with the swings of the country, but they're right there to stab you in the back the minute they get their shot. And that's part of how they survive. And it's just like, I just can't believe some people are this dumb. I don't know, man. You know, you were there. It was like the Wild West out there, brother. It was like the Wild.
Yeah, no doubt. So basically what happened is in the fall, all of a sudden, Ed Martin's investigations on weaponization start getting cut off.
Yeah.
His control of gatekeeping of pardons also gets cut off, and the Tina Peters case goes nowhere. The Kurt Benchoof case does not get developed and investigated.
Yeah.
On the Justice Department side, the Amos Miller case, they're not doing anything about. The state of Pennsylvania starts re-harassing him. He's the Amish farmer, just trying to produce good quality food for everybody. And remember, the Amish community, as you can find in publicly sourced documents, guaranteed Trump's election this past term because of their huge turnout, according to people that are critical and skeptical of the Amish community and its movement. So that's how important they were in places like Pennsylvania, especially, but not limited to it. And so all of a sudden, Ed Martin's, all his efforts to do something on these individual cases, Alex Jones, he tries to get into the lawfare against Alex Jones, gets shut down. Yeah. So all of a sudden, all his efforts on weaponization are getting circumvented. And it's now public news, so we can talk about it. Right before New Year's, Ed Martin was completely shut down entirely. Yeah. He is all efforts he has to get to do weaponization, to do pardon gatekeeping, all of that has been taken away from him. His office has been shut down. He has been shut down. And it's all being done by the top three people at the Justice Department. And number one of the Justice Department, of course, is Attorney General Pam Bondi. Her reputation dating to her Florida days was pay for play Pam. Yeah. Someone who helped shut down investigations on big corporations while harassing people like George Zimmerman, harassing people on Second Amendment issues, pushing red flag laws, all of that. There's nothing about her that ever suggested she was either competent or ethical, but she has turned the Justice Department into a personal cash register for corrupt lobbyists like Mike Davis and Arthur Schwartz. Though they are not the only ones. You can go out to New York Magazine. They've been bragging about this now for 6 months. People like Mike Davis, people like Arthur Schwartz, but they've been doing it in the Democratic press. So most people haven't been processing it. The reason why they have to brag and advertise is it's their mechanism to market themselves to big corporations. Yes. So this includes helping Pfizer. This includes who also had pay for play Pam on their own personal payroll just a few years ago during COVID, peak COVID. And on the Democratic side, they've been building massive impeachment files, as Richard noted. And this includes at ProPublica. This includes at Public Citizen with Ralph Nader's old organization. This includes Democratic members on the Hill. I talked to Hill staffers when I was up there. Richard talked to a range of people as well. And universally, when they said there's a problem with the MAGA agenda, they pointed at one department above all, and it was the Justice Department. They said Pam Bondi is blocking all reforms and remedies. We now know what we said from day one. Pam Bondi lied to the president about what was in the Epstein files. He is not negatively implicated in the Epstein files. He almost seemed pleasantly shocked when he discovered when everything gets released, he's not negatively implicated. There's some stuff from 2016 to 2020. That was the Clinton machine trying to doctor the files, but everybody knew about that. They filed bogus suits and all that. But if you look at it, Epstein pre-2016, there's no Trump going to any island. There's not a single direct communication between Trump and Epstein in the entire files. So she completely lied to him about that derailed Trump's foreign policy agenda for the last 6 months, believing he had to play ball to hide the Epstein documents and play with footsie with Bibi Netanyahu and do whatever Bibi wanted. They're literally talking in the press about what are Israel's red lines about going to war with Iran. We'll talk about why do I care what Israel's red lines are? Yeah. So the MAGA voter sure doesn't. So that's how. So basically, she turned into a cash register where people like Mike Davis go out to big corporate clients, and sometimes they'll even get the Justice Department to start a case solely,
Oracle. Yeah.
absolutely, to start a case solely so to then stop the case. He'll often write articles for Fox News, or God bless him, Steve, for the love of God, would you please get a better personnel choice? I mean, it's bad enough you got into bed with Jeffrey Epstein, not on any corruption stuff, but on just for political stuff. But, you know, the quit platforming the Mike Davises of the world. This guy is a corrupt hack who's destroying the Justice Department. He keeps telling me that what I'm saying is false and defamatory. I'm like, tell me one thing that's false or defamatory, Mike. He can't identify a single one because he knows he knows what he's been up to. Everybody in town knows what he's been up to. The Democratic Party knows what he's been up to. So what they have done is they've used the Justice Department along with Todd Blanche. For people that don't remember, Todd Blanche only parlayed his personal representation of Donald Trump into getting the number 2 position at the Justice Department. He is a lifelong Democrat from the Sovereign District of New York. He is the one taking responsibility on all the Epstein screw-ups. He's saying that they're not screw-ups. He doubled down on dumb this weekend when he said, well, it's not a crime to just want to party with Epstein. That's one of the dumbest political statements you could ever make. So the Pam Bondi is a disaster for the president. Todd Blanche is a disaster for the president. And Stanley Woodward, number 3, goes along with what all these corrupt lobbyists do because he, too, has no experience and connection to MAGA. None of these people have ever been MAGA. They have Trump appointed them because he thought they were personally loyal. Well, they're sabotaging MAGA on a daily basis, undermining the Civil Rights Division, undermining the Ketam Division, undermining the Whistleblower Division, undermining the Criminal Fraud Division, undermining the Civil Fraud Division, undermining the Appellate Division. Why is it they're taking the side of Bayer to provide big corporate immunity for Roundup and other pesticides that have been disabling and killing people across the country because they made the right donation to the Friends of Pay for Play Pam? The same thing is true. Why are they taking anti-Second Amendment positions consistently throughout the country, such that Jean Pirro felt so confident making an anti-Second Amendment statement yesterday on Fox? Because those affiliated and associated groups are lining the pockets of her pals. This is why there's been very little action. This is why the president, recognizing the problem, sent Tulsi Gabbard down to manage the search warrant in Georgia, because that was supposed to have been done a year ago, but Pay for Play Pam was sitting on it because here's what she did. She and Blanche cut a deal that with the sort of rogue deep state actors, we won't go after you, and you allow us to treat the Justice Department as a cash register.
Yep.
What they don't understand is the Democratic Party is happy to go along because they're building a case so it's so damning against her that it's going to make the Ulysses S. Grant second administration look like a beacon of ethical integrity, knowing that the way to take out Trump in with their impeachment is not to repeat the mistakes of Russiagate, but instead go after Noem, go after Bondi, use those two to then leapfrog to Trump. And Vice President Vance needs to be paying attention because they plan on going after Vance, because there are people in his own office, in his staff, that they have identified as being associated with Arthur Schwartz and Mike Davis and facilitating this corruption at the Justice Department. So
the biggest danger to Vance. The biggest danger is not, let me just pop this in real quick. The biggest danger is not the Laura Loomers of the world and stuff who are like, obviously, doing the, look, guys, there's a faction who wants Rubio to be the next Republican nominee right now. And I hate to say this, but it's true. And I'm sorry, Mr. Vice President, if you don't know this, there is a bias in the White House tilting and favoring Rubio. All right. So why? Because Rubio's a chameleon. All right. For those of us who know, I was just talking to a pollster buddy about it. He's known Rubio for many years. And I date back to when Rubio was the Speaker of the House in Florida. He's whatever the hell you need him to be. He was running against, I'll never forget this. He was running against, let me tell a real quick story. Nobody knows. He was running against Crispy Chris, right? Who was the former governor, who turned into he was considered, I never considered him conservative, but he was considered moderate. The Tea Party Revolution came around, and these were big deals back then, especially in Florida. You had to pay like homage to them. And if you didn't give them the time, if you didn't fill out the questionnaire, if you didn't give them like these personal attention that they felt like, they deserved, they would not vote for you. And the Tea Party back then was filled with a lot of moderate Democrats at the time, blue dogs, the remainder of the blue dogs. and they still liked Chris quite a bit. And he was pandering to them a lot better. And Rubio had this idea that, I'm the Speaker of the House and I'm going to run as the outsider. And he was getting smoked. People forget this because he went on to win overwhelmingly, but he was getting smoked. I will never forget sitting down with one of his main advisors and being like, listen, if you don't take this seriously, you're not going to get their vote. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's like a movement going on here, and you can't win a primary without these voters. It's just never going to happen. You had to see this guy. Once he got his poll back, you had to see how fast he turned into a completely different person. And it was completely conscious. Those of us who have known Rubio and his career for as long as we have, which is date back now. I mean, Robert, it dates back a decade and a half, 2 decades almost, right? He will be whatever you need him to be. He has zero core. He has no core. The only thing he really does care about is Big Sugar and Cuba. Like, those are things you can tell he's passionate about. But, he cast aside neoconservatism after being a textbook neoconservative. Why? Because he had an awakening? No, because he wanted to position himself as an alternative to Vance. And I know, Vance, you work closely with him, but he's going to fucking stab you in the back the first chance he gets. It's already happening. He's already whispering to donors behind your back. I could prove it if you want me to prove it. I mean, you could believe me because I've never lied to you before, but if you need me to prove it, I will. So this is all happening and going on. And the Trump administration is just kind of like, I mean, this is the biggest, and still Rubio is not the biggest threat. The biggest threat is what Democrats have discovered about this whole scheme, and that it could, I'm not saying it's fair, because it's just hard to manage every single person in DC that's in your orbit. It's hard, but it's easy to make an argument. It's easy to make a case. Like, how did you not know so-and-so would do this? By the way, here's a picture of you with so-and-so at this event. Is this where your, staff met and started to deal with so-and-so? Like, this is going to be so easy for them. And maybe you didn't know before, but now you know. And it's like, when are you going to do something about it? Like that. I mean, that's ultimately can I just share something real quick, Robert? You said on Twitter before that the Fox poll itself, and now the Harris X poll or Harvard Harris poll, showed that the only people still happy with Donald Trump are boomers who watch Fox News, right? Look at because I wonder how much is from men. And in truth, he has slipped among young men. But I'll get the rest of these demos in as we're talking. But look at this. This is Trump's net approval. Again, apple to apples, no apples to oranges. Here is his net retrospective approval rating in, what was it? Sunday, November 2nd or 3rd. It's so small, guys, I'm sorry. November 3rd. And then the left side is Saturday, January 24th, 2026. So this is a complete apples to apples. Look at how men who are, look at 65 plus, obviously the smallest net shift away from Trump. But look at 18 to 29 females. Holy shit, Robert. Holy shit. And that's the saddest thing, because he was like, they were cool again to these people. And he even lost among men. For people who can't see, he was positive 11.6. He's still slightly positive, but he lost 18 to 29. 18 to 29 combined, he was positive 7.7. We have a negative 13.2 net shift away from him since 24. Right before the final poll, before the election. And why am I doing that? Because, Robert, because we were right. We were the most accurate national poll in the country. So while other people are showing, I think they're exaggerated swings, they're still really bad. A negative 13.2% swing against you, net swing, is the ball game. You're cooked. You're cooked. And again, it didn't have to, people are like trying to minimize that. It didn't have to be the case. And everything they do from this point on should be geared toward making those people happy again. Because as you pointed out on Twitter, you're absolutely right. The only happy person is a male boomer who watches Fox News, brother. That's it. Well, who cares about them? I'm sorry. Let's be real. Who cares about them? Republicans did way better with this group in 22 than Trump did in 20, and they lost. They did way better with this group in 22 than Trump did in 24. And guess what? He won. They lost. The math isn't there. It's not enough to sit there and rely on the old boomers. It's not enough. Here's 22. Republicans won them. Where are you? Get by age here. Oh, I got the wrong things up. I'll get them. Oh, there it is. Look at this. 65 plus in 2022. Where are you? This is 2020. Trump won. He lost -4 actually. So yeah, he won them by 4 points. He actually won them by a point less in 24, and yet he's stomped. He's stomped. How did he do that, guys? Look at the middle age, the working class and the younger voters. They shifted to Trump, and that's you can't do it without them anymore. You just can't. I don't know how, like, who is advising these people? They're so stupid, Robert. They're just dumb people. Like, the numbers don't add up. I feel like I'm back arguing with, what's that fat guy who ran Rove, and not Rove, Rove and his buddy. Oh God, come on. Ron DeSantis's, old advisor. Thank you. Yeah, Jeff Rowe. I feel like I'm back to arguing with Jeff Rowe over here. Like, this is not what share of the electorate do you think these people make up? And how much of a margin then would it require you to win them by in order for them to be enough? It doesn't exist anymore, Robert. The boomers too are dying. They're dying off, and their share of the electorate just keeps getting lower and lower and lower. In the midterm, there'll be a lot, but it doesn't matter. It's still not enough, as I just proved. It's when they were a larger share 4 years ago, it wasn't enough to win them by an outsized margin. They still lost. So, I mean, this is like every single move you make should be geared toward not protecting these institutions you're talking about. Because why? Because boomers don't want real change. Every move you make should be towards the word reform's got to get out of everybody's vocabulary. They're not reformable. They have to be dismantled, as you promised these people it would be. As you promised, I will dismantle the deep state. Do I have to run the video? Dismantle. You did not say I will manage its shit decline. You said I will dismantle it. And they believed you.
And the key is for people to understand. So the one part is the Justice Department is an extraordinary point of vulnerability for the president and the vice president going forward in terms of scandals, in terms of undermining popular appeal, in terms of impeachable issues and the like. The other part is the Justice Department could be an exceptionally important tool to build popular public support going into the midterms and going into 2028.
Yeah.
This includes all the deep state areas of prosecution. Here are all the areas that Pam Bondi has on her desk, her infamous desk where everything goes to disappear, that she is either deep sixing or slow walking. The election 2020 investigation. That's why, as Tulsi Gabbard has now publicly stated, she was asked by the president to be there in Georgia. Why does the president feel the need to have the director of national intelligence there for a Justice Department investigation? Because he knows he cannot trust the Justice Department to handle it correctly because they've been slow walking it for a year.
Yep.
Second, all the COVID-related accountability issues, whether or not there's ways, as Senator Rand Paul has detailed, he and Robert Kennedy, working with Tulsi Gabbard, have made referrals to the Justice Department. Pam Bondi is refusing to investigate any of the connected parties. COVID has a part, Fauci has a part, and the question is whether it covers everything. But there's a whole bunch of people connected to Fauci who do not have pardons, who there have been criminal referrals to concerning COVID corruption that pay-for-play Pam is refusing to prosecute, including the Pfizer Corporation. And what they knew, what Borland knew about the dangers of that drug. We'll get into later one of the most popular political issues related to this.
Yeah.
So you got COVID accountability, election accountability. Then you have all the lawfare accountability, whether you're talking about January 6th, whether you're talking about Russiagate, Ukrainegate, and all of those issues connected to President Trump, whether you're talking about corrupt judges that were involved in those cases, either against President Trump or his allies. Instead of prosecuting the CIA officer who was, I believe, undercover at the Capitol Police, who likely placed the pipe bombs, they framed an autistic black kid instead, who had nothing to do with it. So there's all of those issues related to there's still people that haven't received pardons connected to January 6th. They just received commutations. They should receive pardons. So there's all of those issues where Trump has taken some action, but the action that's outside of his control and in the Justice Department control is where we're seeing no action. So you have all of those issues of corrupt, and then the Epstein files infamously. So all of those issues of I should add the NGO fraud, the Doge referrals, all the sponsored protests that are interfering with ICE across the country and immigration enforcement. And going all the way back to the BLM protest that were really not protests, but a regime change effort. As many people have pointed out, the anti-ICE protests look like regime change operations, not like organic protests. That's why you keep seeing people from outside of the state, outside the city, outside the county, efforts to radicalize, including the Trantifa movement that radicalized Tyler Robinson, who I believe is responsible for the murder of Charlie Kirk. That was shut down by FBI Director Kash Patel and Attorney General Pam Bondi when Deputy Director of National Intelligence Joe Kent was following up on evidentiary leads implicating a range of foreign governments and foreign organizations. So all of those issues are issues that are convincing, compelling issues from a public narrative perspective, from a political base communication and persuasion perspective. And of course, they're also exceptional policy. So for a lot of voters. So but that's just one category. Then you have another category of all, and included with that category, the deep state lawfare, you have the Alex Jones case, the Kurt Benshoff case, the Amos Miller case, the Tina Peters case, all of that. Then on the other side, you have the other ways the Justice Department can use the Ketam division, the civil fraud division, the criminal fraud division, the antitrust division, the people at FTC. All of them could use antitrust to go after the big health insurers that are jacking up all the prices because they bought up a lot of the pharmacies, bought up a lot of the medical care providing services. They have been price fixing en masse for years. And they are the ones causing their cartels causing major price hike and accessibility issues and affordability issues in healthcare. So you have one of the top three issues amongst voters in the country is healthcare. You could be directly addressing their accessibility and affordability concerns by unleashing the antitrust division. Another, just like Harmeet Dillon, just like Ed Martin, another person greatly respected in the MAGA community is Assistant Attorney General of Antitrust, Gail Slater. She comes from Vice President Vance's staff. She has great confidence on both sides of people on the Hill. She's got a great antitrust division there working for her.
She got 70-something votes, brother, for confirmation. Let me just point to this. Like, this is bipartisan, and this is why what's going on with antitrust is so dangerous for the administration, because there still is, and I'm going to talk about this in a little bit. I kind of think Republicans blew their chance at the realignment, and I think we're going to get another one, and I think it's going to be what remained of the orphaned left that still feels like they're almost more in common with MAGA than they do with either party, and you're going to have mad ass MAGA, and I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if it turns eventually into a third party. I don't want to jump too ahead and get too far off, but antitrust is a great it's a great example of where they have this overlap, and Democrats will be pissed if you're messing with that. Like, can you explain to not just the policy, but the community and law? Like, it's a very small niche community and they respect each other. So when you're looking at, like, it doesn't matter what the R, D, whatever, like, if you're a careerist at antitrust, you don't want to see this shit. And it's like, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. You take your work seriously, and only a few people in your community know how to do it, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I know people that are career. I have friends of mine that have been the antitrust division for the better part of a quarter century. Yeah. So I've handled those cases on the plaintiff side myself, and have been involved in it for a long time. It is a very niche area of practice, but at the core, it's the sort of what you might call the first populist reformation of the Republican Party was the early 20th century under Teddy Roosevelt, which was to break up the big trust, the big monopolies, the Rockefellers. That tradition is still has a bipartisan support. Matt Stoller comes from the Democratic side of the aisle, big. But when it comes to antitrust, there is a broad consensus in the American public and within those that follow it with great detail that this is an area that they have consensus of support for, that they don't believe big monopoly. It doesn't matter whether you're a free market capitalist or you're more of a government inclined lefty. Both of them have problems with monopolies. With private sector cartel corporations. And what a lot of Americans don't know is that the source of a lot of accessibility issues, at the source of a lot of affordability issues, is monopolies. The source of a lot of the social problems. For example, if you look at it's basically you combine big ag, big pharma with the big insurance companies, and big tech. you've got 3/4 of the dystopian control grid. You could add big media to that equation.
Yeah.
Right now, there's a huge effort afoot to allow the Larry Ellison's son to misuse and abuse access to the antitrust division to try to force a sale of Warner Brothers to Larry Ellison's son, who's basically running an Israel operation in our media for CBS News and others and Paramount Plus. And they would like to have the Warner Brothers and CNN brand as well under their label.
Yeah, just got TikTok, by the way. I mean, like, just, I mean,
correct. Exactly.
It's outrageous.
These are monopolies that are not in the interest of the American people, that increase cost, decrease accessibility, decrease affordability. And so in the areas of healthcare, in the areas of food, in the areas of medicine, in the areas of media, in the areas of technology, in addition, these big tech monopolies have done horrible psychological damage and do all kinds of political propaganda over the past 10 plus years. And we're neck deep in the censorship industrial complex. So all of those areas that the antitrust division could have extraordinary legal success. They got big trials coming up against Google. They want to pursue more cases. The career officers there at the antitrust division, they're getting shut down and sabotaged on a daily basis because Mike Davis, Arthur Schwartz, and their lobbyist pals are going to pay for play Pam, Todd Blanchett Dubois, and getting them to shut it down. And case after case after case. And so not only is it a huge scandal that's looming that's going to hurt both President Trump and Vice President Vance, but it's also deterring these would be hugely popular policies.
Yeah.
These companies know they're under major political heat. They would be willing to fold to a great degree to get out of the scale of criminal liability they could face. Yeah. So you could have and at a minimum, even if you don't get immediate policy benefits, you get immediate political benefits because the American people see the Trump administration going after these big tech monopolies, going after these big ag cartels that are jacking up the price of beef. Want to know why beef is so expensive? Number one reason is because a small group of big ag cartels control it. And this has been known for 20 years. And they've just made it worse and worse and worse. So if you're battling to make it cheaper for people to afford good food, if you're battling to make it cheaper and easier and more affordable to get the prescription that you need, to get the medical access that you need from a doctor or healthcare provider, so that you can get big tech out of your kids' lives, and also to provide for meaningful competition in that space for the free market can thrive. There's no better place than antitrust. So it's a huge winner politically, huge winner policy. It can actually achieve the objective that you're out seeking. And at least you're seen as Donald Trump versus big ag, Donald Trump versus big pharma, Donald Trump versus big food,
which
Donald Trump versus big media. Absolutely. That's win.
When he told them from the jump, he told DOJ and, specifically antitrust, but he told DOJ, Pam Bondi and the rest of them, I want their heads on a plate. I want their heads on a plate. That was their mandate. And this is what they did. It's like, I guess at the end of the day, Robert, the buck does stop, at the top. It does. But it isn't what his directive was, which we both know to be for a fact. Like, we have multiple people who have told us that. Like, this is what the president said. Congratulations, you're through. Go get me the heads of XYZ Corp. And they didn't do it. They didn't.
Correct. And all the people in the antitrust division, to my knowledge, because I know people there that are the career officers there, said they're gung-ho on this. They thought they were going to go. And Gail Slater has such a great reputation on the antitrust community of being a meaningful, positive actor in this community. That means she left a good paying job to go work with Vice President Vance and then join the administration as Assistant Attorney General, has bipartisan support on the Hill. She can achieve extraordinary results for the Trump administration, but it's quite clear to everybody watching, including a person that she brought in as a professor who's now testified, who was fired by Pam Bondi, that the Antitrust Division is being shut down effectively, like the Ed Martin Weaponization Division is being shut down. So, and this is because of the incompetency combined with the corruption of pay-for-play Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche Dubois. So those, that's what's going on at the Justice Department. Now, transitioning into some of the we'll be doing some of the survey issues coming up over the next couple of weeks on the antitrust issues and other components. But one of the data points that stood out all the way back when we did the survey in the summer 2024, for those who may not remember, 1776 Law Center commissioned Richard to survey the country on the 4 freedoms: medical freedom, food freedom, political freedom, financial freedom. And in the political freedom context, it's about issues related to lawfare, issues related to the Second Amendment and self-defense, issues related to censorship, financial freedom about crypto, about access to capital for small enterprise, all of the industrial policy support on trade. On medical freedom, it's about the COVID vaccine and vaccines in general. And on food freedom, it's the right to buy healthy food directly from the farmer without getting a permission slip from some bureaucrat in the federal government.
Let me show that. Let me pop that because I have that handy, actually. I know it's hard for people to see, but like you're talking about popularity of stuff. That's just ridiculous. Here was the first way, because we wanted to ask this, like, kind of, how can you say, like, forthcoming, right? So we were trying to get people to understand, like, it was specifically a right to buy food directly from farmers without government permission. We wanted people to consider, whether or not the government has a positive role to play in protecting people. Look at the second way we asked this, about whether or not you agree or disagree with the stated positions. Americans should be allowed to buy food directly from farmers without getting government permission. I mean, guys, it is almost impossible these days to get 78.5% agreement in the American public. Like that is an immensely popular position, immensely. And I don't know if Barnes glitched out here or not. Can you hear me, buddy? I hope he didn't glitch. But there it is. And then while I'm waiting for him to pop back on, this is, where is it? It's been a bit, but we're going to do more of this. Like Robert said, immunes. American drug companies should not be immune from suit if their vaccines cause injuries. I mean, nearly 50% strongly agree, another 25% somewhat agree. This is probably the most popular healthcare policy proposal ever pulled. And I mean, Robert knows this. I mean, I specifically sat there and told them, you want to dig your ass out of this grave? This is what you need to do. And Bobby is trying to do it. And I mean, you know more about, so if you want to speak to that, go ahead. But they are good people who are trying to do these things. It should be done.
Oh, and no doubt. And so there's, the lobbying the administration on this on behalf of the American voter. But for all the people out there working for candidates or are themselves candidates for the primaries this cycle, even if it includes city council, county commission, state representative, members of House of Representatives, United States Senate, governors, run on medical freedom and food freedom. They are the popularity. Richard and I have seen a wide range of data from recent surveys. We're about to do another big nationwide survey on this, updated. It's only become more intense.
Yep.
As more people know somebody who suffered death or disability or injury from the vaccine, especially if you dig into the most likely voter, you get the people who say they're extremely interested in voting. They are certain to vote. They have a history of high-profile voter participation. Amongst that voter group within the Republican primary electorate, they are screaming, we want medical freedom. This is the number one issue.
Yeah.
Amongst these votes, that they like number one issue that gets breadth of support and intensity. That's what you want. You want breadth and depth. So you want broad support, but you also want intense support. Those are the great issues if you're a primary candidate. And number 1 and 2 on that list, we'll see how food freedom is nationally when we pull that, but it's medical freedom. Make drug companies liable for the products when their products cause injury, whether it's vaccines, whether it's herbicides, pesticides, anything else. That these issues, the buyer effort to try to buy people off the state legislature is a big issue in a bunch of state races. So if you go and say, I'm going to make drug companies be liable and pay when their products cause injury, regardless of whether that product is a vaccine or meant to supposedly help agriculture, any of that doesn't matter the excuse. The American people are demanding full accountability, full responsibility, full liability for big drug companies' injuries when they're vaccinated. It's one of the number one issues in the nation, and almost nobody is running on it. It's an issue that allows you to distinguish yourself from everybody else right away. And it's an issue that has there's almost nobody that opposes it. I mean, the opposition is like 3%, 5%, strongly opposed. These are unheard of in polling history. That's how broad the support is. That's how deep the support is. So campaign on medical freedom, campaign on food freedom. It helps you stand out and distinguish. Find the issue in your local community that aligns with that, whether it's access and permits for farmers markets at the city and county level, whether it's state pesticides or other injury issues at the state level, or the big vaccine drug companies at the federal level. This is a win-win-win issue. So those that campaign on it are the ones that are going to get an edge in the primary campaigns. Probably can shock a lot of people and pull big upsets.
Yeah, I think when we do this again, like Robert said, we're about to like kind of give an update on some of this, because there are some of the like more localized races that we've looked at data, Robert and I have looked at, where it seems that some of these policies are getting even more popular, even more. And then asking people what they want, which I know we just can't blab it out here, Robert, but you know what I'm saying? Like specifically asking Republican voters what you want out of a candidate. I think if you haven't seen the Emerson College poll in Florida today, all right, then maybe you'll still be surprised by me saying that the Israel thing is toxic. They're going to spend, AIPAC's going to spend $98 million just alone out of that one entity, which is a record breaker. All right. So they are trying to win some short-term victories, but Robert and I are looking at the data, and people who are opposed to coming to the table on that issue, food freedoms, medical freedoms. The other one, by the way, is, they're not done. I know everyone wants to bury the Epstein thing and move on. We haven't even begun. In a very, very important state, what was the number, Rob? It's like 74% or something, said they want someone who's going to continue to investigate the network with Epstein and the situation. I don't want people to get away with this. And the people who are saying there was no bombshells in these emails are not reading the emails. There are huge bombshells in these emails. But what it does for me, in my mind, Robert, is that it's confirming to the voter that there was this dark cabal, this influencing network with very evil people who did evil things to each other in an effort, though, not just to get personal favor, but to influence public policy, to influence government policy. And they do so at the expense of everybody else. So, and they're bipartisan. So I'm looking at it, and why did it surprise me a little bit? Because it seems like that issue Democrats are trying to seize. And when we see one party do that, what typically happens is the other party has what's called a negative political reaction. So maybe they did care, but now they suddenly don't, because it's their side who, we see it with the Electoral College. When Bush won the Electoral College, but lost the popular vote, Republicans said, I don't like the popular vote. I like the Electoral College. And Democrats were saying the reverse. But then when we got, for instance, in some other examples, the parties will just completely change their mind because their party would have benefited from it at that time. It's just like a negative political response. In this situation, Republicans aren't having a negative political response. They're agreeing with the Democrats. This is crazy. This is guys, I've been polling the Obama. Something happened in the end of the Bush Obama era where voters completely lost their objectivity. And it was if it was good for my party, it's good for me. If it was good, and that's it. And we would see Democrats, when everyone knew the economy was bad, for instance, in the consumer sentiment surveys or the consumer confidence indexes, we would see them say the economy was great when everyone knew it wasn't, right? They were having these reaction, these very strict and exaggerated, or exacerbated, actually is a better word, political or partisan reactions. Then when Trump became president, everyone knew in Trump 1.0 that the economy was red hot, but Democrats were sitting there the economy sucks. This is what we've been living with since the end of the Bush and the beginning of the Obama era. And now we're starting to see rays of light shine through, where there's this widespread agreement on shit that we haven't seen since voter ID. When you ask people about voter ID, there's widespread agreement. And you would never know by the media that so many Democrats actually do support voter ID, even federal voter ID, by the way. Now we're seeing it with issues that were just recently partisan and very, very partisan. This idea, Robert, of like, vaccine. Republicans would have argued you can't do that to a private company. They have a right to do it. Blah, 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 blah. Well, not since COVID. Since they didn't show themselves anymore to be just your average kind of corporate community, and they have a right to make a profit. No, they inserted themselves in an area of public policy where they had way too much power, and now Republicans are right there with Democrats and it's like, how could you not take this opportunity? The vaccine injury one, to me, is the biggest one, and it is because the food thing. We talked about this when we did the poll the first time. And I can't wait to do this other one. I can't wait to do the next one. But I was surprised. If you guys remember, I was surprised by how much food freedom's polled. I really thought it would be niche, and Robert had said, but if you think about it, it's something that we all deal with. We're all like what food are we putting in our own bodies? It's our own health at the end of the day, and our children, right? If you're parents and you have kids. So I guess I underestimated like the connection that issue has to basically everybody. That's the way I see this issue now too with the vaccine, because every time we poll it, what we're finding is that more and more people know someone who's been either severely hurt or killed. If not themselves been severely hurt, they know someone else who has, or even died. So, it's just that problem gets worse and worse. And that's like above partisanship. I mean, you're still going to have, right? I mean, Robert, you're still going to have a very small percentage, like these rabid, overly educated, credentialed people. They'll even protect the integrity, even if it doesn't exist anymore, the integrity of another person's professional class status, because they don't want to lose their own. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, I don't really trust doctors anymore, but I'm maybe a lawyer. So I don't want their professional credentials to be in question, because it's the same reason why all the European monarchs protected other monarchies while there were revolutions going on in Europe, right? And it's like, they didn't care for that particular monarchy, but hey, maybe it's my second cousin removed and I don't want to lose my head next time. So like, even though you see that, it's so small. And that's not normal, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make, guys. That's not normal. And that just screams of a massive political opportunity that you would be derelict to not take advantage of. Republicans are so good at being opposition, but it's like they're the dog that caught the bus. The minute they get the bus, they don't know what to do with it. And of course, I'm being nice, because the biggest problem is, sometimes we overanalyze this stuff. The biggest problem that Republicans have is that so many of them are corrupt and they're scared. They're cowards and they're corrupt. So like, you have to break through that. When you get an issue like this, you have to seize it. Otherwise, you don't deserve power. You just don't, because your opponents are going to use it. And isn't that really the difference between the new right and the old right, Robert? Like, the old right is like, I don't know, having a philosophical conversation about the nature of power, and their enemy is using it on them and beating them, like bludgeoning them with it every time they get it. And the new right is like, hello, we have to use this power when we get it, when it's entrusted to us. That is the biggest difference, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And I think that, bridges us into the third topic. Which political personalities do you want to associate with publicly if you're campaigning for primary office somewhere in the country this cycle on the Republican side? And the name that everybody thinks, they think that is the 800-pound gorilla, no longer is. Yeah. Now, very important for vendors and donors is Donald Trump's endorsement, but not anymore for voters. He barely tips the scale, particularly if he helps a candidate that's unknown get big name recognition. But other than that, he is no longer the dominating factor in primaries he's been in the last 10 years. Now, I'll give you two names that will probably surprise some people, but it shouldn't if you've been listening to the broader conversation. People that were good on health freedom, people that were good on food freedom, people that were good on not getting overly entangled in foreign wars, people that were good about warning about some of the risk of those foreign wars, people that were good about taking on the deep state, people that have been good on a lot of these political freedom, financial freedom, medical freedom, food freedom issues. Two personalities, if you're running for office, you should be including in your campaign literature on a regular basis in the Republican primary. Number one, our good friend, murdered, Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk's popularity and support is higher than anybody I've ever seen.
Anybody. And Yeah.
It's off the charts.
Yeah, it is.
And all the Candace Owens smearing and all the none of that matters. That the Charlie has achieved a unique public position in the public consciousness amongst Republican primary voters. But don't forget the issues that he was associated with that helped create that in the first place, because it relates to the second person. That's why, like, if you're Thomas Massey and you've got a great old tweet about Charlie saying that Thomas is one of his favorite. One of his favorite congressmen, and consistently. Why? Because Turning Point scoring constantly had Thomas Massey #1 frequently in their evaluations, because Charlie cared about all of these populist issues. He's the one who helped put the Maha movement with the MAGA movement together in the first place, thanks to the polling data that Richard was able to provide. And that gets us to person number 2 that you should be affiliated with, associated with, include in your campaign literature, include in your discussions on talk radio or podcast or anywhere else. And that is, I mean, especially for this to happen in the Republican primary so fast is fascinating to me amongst hardcore Republican primary.
I got to show it. I got it ready.
My good friend, Robert Francis Kennedy Jr. When we were in DC, Kennedy, all the people that are on the right side or want to do good in the administration, and they are all over the administration. There's people in literally every single cabinet division and throughout the White House that want to deliver for MAGA voters. They're being blocked by rogue actors acting at the behest and behalf of donors and lobbyists. Yeah. But so we want to help unleash and politically protect them. But if you're also a primary candidate out, but the #1 person they all said was, "Hey, can you get us?" Asking Richard and I, "Can you get us a meeting with Robert Kennedy?" That's how much confidence and faith and belief they have in him. Yeah. But like as Richard's polling has been showing, right now close to it's not Narco Marco. It's not him surging in the polls and everybody can't wait. That's a totally AstroTurf campaign. For those that don't know why I call him Narco Marco, it's because his family started making all their money when his sister married into the cocaine cowboys of South Florida. That's who Narco Marco is. As Richard was talking about, he might have literal cross-dressing tendencies, you might say. Just think, you can't. He may be cross-dressing his MAGA right now, but when he gets those high heels on that he likes, it's neocons that he's dancing to. But the guy Rubio does not get any much resonance. It's Robert Francis Kennedy Jr. If you want to, so Charlie Kirk and Robert Kennedy Jr.
Oh, you all lost your audio, Robert. You lost your audio. Yeah. I heard a pop. It got pulled out or something. But I'll put it while we're waiting, just, talk until we can hear you. But I just want to show people this because I'm like, I told Robert right away, I'm like, what on earth is going on here? Like I expected, sometimes I believe them, sometimes I don't. I don't know, Robert. In this case, I thought maybe Rubio, he's gotten a lot of press. Maybe he is shooting up there. That's a myth. That's a complete myth. It's astroturfed by certain people in the White House who have asked certain pollsters to get some, numbers out there that make it look better for Narco Marco. The fact of the matter is, none of them have interviewed as many Republican primary voters as we have over the last now 50 days almost. And that includes 4,000 repeat interviews, which was something we always do to make sure that I'm not going to tell some secrets, but there are reasons why some are super suggested to a response bias and we are not. All right. So he moved nothing. He has been flat the entire time. The one who moved was Robert Kennedy. Leapfrogged him by a half of interview, if you wait. Leapfrog, because waiting does this, guys. But leapfrogged him by a half of interview and put him in a third place, even though they're both at rounded 7. The one thing for Marco is that if you look at some of the most enthusiastic or likely, it does raise the vote history for people. So Marco has a slightly more enthusiastic. The only difference is it collapsed. Whereas Kennedy's actually goes up. So, what does that mean? If the electorate was bigger, if turnout was higher and greater, Kennedy would edge him out. If it was a lower turnout, kind of high propensity electorate, then Marco would edge him out, which is why, by the way, Robert, I do think Democrats are going to outperform the generic ballot if this keeps up, buddy. I do, because their leads on enthusiasm and certainty to vote, which, by the way, they have the vote history to back it up. So like when we do data appends to vote history, you can see they got it. They have an advantage not only among those who always vote in midterms, but among those who say that they're going to be first term midterm voters. You can actually see that they're edging out Republicans even on that. So it's just like, it's bad. It's all of the, it's like the recipe for an overperformance. We saw this in the Trump era, right? I mean, you and I, Robert, in 2020 said, you know, even if Trump is down, he's not that far down. The enthusiasm gap is too big. This isn't going to be what the media says it is going to be, from even during the COVID situation. And in 2016, it was the reason he beat Hillary Clinton, because he brought 7 million new voters into the electorate and he smacked her with enthusiasm in all the right places. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is like that's backward right now. And I got the primary up, but I can show people. Let's look at just the basic generic without leaners. Yeah, the Democrats have a 4-point lead. They have a 5-point lead on certain to vote. They have a 1-point lead on likely. When you do voter enthusiasm, it just gets ugly. 54-42. Come on, dude, on extreme. I mean, Robert, we've never seen those numbers on extreme enthusiasm. Not for
not at all.
And
for those that don't know, maybe the consequence or significance of that data.
Yeah,
it's that those that say they're extremely enthusiastic, you know, very certain to vote, that's actually usually who's actually going to vote. Anybody who says otherwise mostly doesn't vote.
Yeah.
So that's why it's a form of a likely voter screen that is very effective, especially when you're a little bit out, you know, you're like about 9 months out from the election.
That's exactly right. Yes.
So I've been tracking this data for a very long time for political prediction markets, looking at who says that I'm absolutely going to vote, certain to vote, definitely going to vote, very certain to vote, enthusiastic, very enthusiastic, can't wait to vote.
Yeah.
What's interesting is when you dig in those groups, and we'll show this with the 1776 Law Center poll when we get that finalized in a couple of weeks. What we'll see is that food freedom is huge, medical freedom is huge, Charlie Kirk is deeply popular, and Robert Kennedy Jr. is very popular. So
can I tell people among Charlie? Can I tell, because Charlie, man, he deserves this. He less than 1 in 10 Republican primary voters have an unfavorable opinion of Charlie Kirk. Less than 1 in 10. All right. I mean, the guy, it's ridiculous. He's the most popular figure on the right now. And Charlie would be happy for Kennedy on this. I mean, guys, you're looking at 36 plus 37. I mean, like he's like 80% favorable, Robert Kennedy. It's unbelievable. But that's only topped by like Charlie, who has this massive, more than majority, like way beyond. And I should put this in a chart and show people. I just, why I'm not doing it, but I should, because people should know. I mean, it's amazing with the stuff that had happened to him and turning point in the aftermath of his death with all this grifting bullshit that people did. None of it worked. I mean, a massive majority, very unfavorable, and then a significant secondary, about a quarter, somewhat favorable, putting together. It's like universal, guys. It's universal. I mean, that's universal favorability.
You've got a lot of great quotes and statements from Charlie that you can utilize in your campaign material. Piggyback off of what Charlie was trying to bridge in creating this MAGA Maha coalition. That's where the issues are popular, and he and Kennedy are popular. Now, getting into where the electoral environment is currently, if things don't change at the Justice Department, if things don't change in the sense of these MAGA Maha policy priorities being pushed by the administration, then the Democrats are going to win the House. And they're going, even if the Voting Rights Act gets overturned, even if the states act unusually quickly and redistrict in ways that they historically have not, even if Virginia is unable to successfully redistrict, even if Maryland is unable, because it looks like Tom Fitton's Judicial Watch has a legal claim against their redistricting effort, even if all of that goes in Republicans' favor, what that does is open the door if Trump restores MAGA Maha voters as the focal point of the rest of this year. If Trump does not, then even all of those, even if every one of those things falls into the Republican direction, they are going to lose the House in big. because what Richard's data is showing is you're talking about a bigger Democratic edge than they have ever had since the 1980s. I mean, you're talking about, and that was back when the Democratic Party was really part Republican Party in the South and the Midwest.
Yeah.
They just disguised themselves as Democrats.
That's right.
We're talking about 1994 forward. Democrats have never, I think they peaked out at +8 in 2006 and 2008. They have never got +12. A +12 number is a bloodbath. And you're talking about a huge surge and a soft, a big solid majority that they could lose, say, 10 votes and still have a majority in the House. And you're talking about losing the Senate. Richard and I talked about this all the way back in December.
People don't want to hear it.
Gave us
Shit.
crap.
Yeah.
But we said, watch, Ohio is at risk.
Yeah.
Iowa is at risk. Alaska is at risk. Texas is at risk. South Carolina. So some of those folks out there that think, hey, we got to get someone who's going to win. Let's vote Lindsey Graham in South Carolina. Lindsey Graham gets that nomination. There's going to be a bunch of voters that refuse to vote for him in the general election.
And you and I know that.
Exactly. If Graham gets that nomination, Republicans will lose South Carolina as well. I already know libertarians that can't wait for Lindsey Graham to get the nomination so they can get the biggest vote they've ever got for a Senate race in the history of South Carolina. And they got a third of the Republican primary electorate that can't wait to vote for anybody but Graham in the general election. So what does that mean? It means not only Democrats take the Senate, but they take it solidly, because we know Murkowski's going to flip. Collins is probably going to lose in Maine. So because the Bernie guy is likely to win on the Democratic side, the best hope for Collins is Mills gets it, because Mills is not well liked within parts of the Democratic populist base there in Maine. But the Northern Maine has no problem with that guy's ex-Nazi tattoos. That's a fair percentage of certain people in Northern Maine, if you've ever been up there. There's a reason why Stephen King had it as a setting for so many books and films. But that's how, and not only that, losing key governorships, losing the governorship in Ohio, for example. Why does that matter in many of these Midwestern states? Well, remember 2020? We lost those governorships in 2018. It impacts redistricting. It impacts how the integrity of the elections are maintained and managed. So right now, if Trump does not, and the GOP does not course correct, and especially if they get dragged into a regional war with Iran, that is likely to be one of the worst conflicts we've had. But even if it isn't, even if it goes swimmingly, the political opposition to continued foreign entanglement is so high that it will doom Trump and the GOP in the midterms.
Can I just say a stat real quick?
Yeah.
42% over 4 in 10 2024 Trump voters think that Israel and Benjamin Netanyahu have too much influence over Donald Trump. All right. That is a huge number, I'm holding some of the stuff for when, because I know that they're going to do this. I know, so I'm gonna drop it on them, because I mean, I'm waiting to do it for the public, because they already know. There's no point in me putting it out. They already know. I've told them. So they're choosing to believe some other people's polls that are nuanced to make it like, they're the bullshit general way of wording something to getting the answer that you want, as opposed to flatly having the balls to ask people whether or not you think Donald Trump is Bibi's bitch, and then looking at his own coalition. And I'm telling you guys, the number of people, and this is not just Trump's 2024, but the number of people who think that this is not even in the U.S. interest, that he's doing this explicitly because of too much influence by Israel, is unsustainable to be a credible U.S. president. I'm just giving you this right now. A majority of Republicans opposes regime change on behalf of Israel in Iran. They want nothing to do with this. Nothing. And by the way, Quinnipiac was basically right. I'm just going to give you, and I hate to say that, it burns me with every fiber of my being, but we got roughly the same result as Quinnipiac. We got about 7 in 10 voters who said that they oppose it, period. That includes 52% of Republican voters. And what we're seeing here, which I think people need to start to understand, what we're seeing is there are voters who, Robert, a year ago, even 8 months ago, would have been calling themselves America First Republicans. And a lot of them are newly registered Republicans that were registered leading up into the 24 election by the Elon Musk, the 10X votes, Charlie's Chase the Vote, all of that. And then some of it just being organic, right? I mean, we had the motor voter law in Pennsylvania that actually helped Republicans, contrary to what they believe. But these are like relatively new registrations. They registered, let's say, from the Republican primary or shortly after the 22 midterms up until the election. And they're now calling themselves, after saying, no problem, they were Republicans who are MAGA. All right. They're now calling themselves independents. And if they do, they don't get the MAGA question. They get our independent identification question. And in that, they're answering that they share little in common with either party. That is called disaffection. All right. That is when your own part of your own coalition is so disgusted, and so they don't even want to identify with you anymore. And the biggest problem is a lot of people wanted to write them off. Oh, that's only 10%. Oh, that's only 5%. Oh, and they did this all throughout these different issues. Oh, Epstein's only 4 or 5%. Oh, Iran's only 10 or 20%. Well, you're adding up, guys. And now you're starting to routinely see 25 to a third of your own coalition fracture off and say you want nothing to do with this. So you can't win like this. The entire beauty of the Trump coalition, were those 25 to 33%. They were the beauty of it. I hate to say it, but and I'm going to say, I mean, this is going to get shit. I know it, but it's true. Some voters are more important than others. Some voters you're going to get all the time, no matter what. And then others you're not. And you need them to win. And you have to, if you guys recall, when we were looking at the 24 nomination, we asked certain questions to identify who are these voters? How big are they? Let's compare them to the so-called suburban woman that DeSantis says he's going to win back. Who has the more meaningful coalition to cobble together, and who, you know, the Trump or bust, we wound up calling them Trump or bust voters, versus that group that, you know, Republicans have been spending millions and now probably billions over the years to win back, that they're never going to win back. And it was overwhelming, as the Trump or bust vote was an overwhelmingly larger contribution to the coalition than if you could even catch this Hail Mary with the suburban woman vote that they were all arguing with. We're doing this right now. We're doing the same thing right now. Robert just mentioned Lindsey Graham, and I'll say this. About 3 and 4 would you could push to vote for Lindsey Graham. The others are seriously considering things like voting for a third party. I may vote for the Democrat. I'm just not going to vote at all. Those numbers that we put together before 24, they were right. And I'm telling you, if you have a massive swing with independents and then 25% sit it out, you're screwed. You are screwed. There will be upsets everywhere. And as of right now, I mean, Robert, everyone's dismissing now the Texas special election in Senate District in Tarrant County. Everyone, it's like they're dismissing every single loss. They're piling up losses and excuses. In fact, the only thing that exceeds their loss record in 25 and now in 26 is the list of excuses for those losses. And it's like nothing is ever significant. They can explain away everything. Oh, turnout was low. Right. Meaning Democrats in a red area, the reddest, largest red county in the country, are more interested in voting right now than you are. That is a problem. It is significant, especially since you rewrote Texas. You redrew Texas based on Trump's performance with Hispanic demographics, which I'm going to bring up in a second. But I mean, that's part of the thing we have on the cover here, folks. I'll give you the number right now without the graph. Negative 23.6 net shift away from Trump since 24. Negative 23 among Hispanics. And yeah, Republicans redrew the freaking map, Robert, based on Trump's performance with Hispanics in Texas, which I told them not to do, by the way. I'm like, there's no evidence you can even win those voters, let alone now. You didn't in 20. Many of you did not in 24. You underperformed him. And now you're going to redraw the map entirely based on how well Donald Trump does? Good luck, bro. Good luck. And now here we are because Trump's eating shit with them now himself. So, I don't even, man. What do you think? You think that this we could just shrug off and pretend it's not significant at all?
Well, what's key here is the trends that Richard and I have been detailing since the November 2025 off-year elections. One of the most disturbing things was new MAGA being off the train.
Yeah.
And amongst younger voters in the polling data, but you could look at the precinct data for Hispanic and African American votes that came over to Trump in 2024.
Yeah.
Many of these people didn't even vote Trump in 2020. Most of them did not in 2016. This is what took Trump from because especially given the aging demographics of the votes and the increasing youth share, Trump's -2 nationwide in 2016 should have been -4 in 2024. Instead, it was +1 to +2. You're talking about a 6-point shift. Almost all of that shift, as Richard was pointing out earlier, none of it happened among seniors. It all happened amongst Gen X, Zoomers, and Millennials, and disproportionately Hispanic, Black, and Asian working class constituencies within those groups. That's who is now off the train. We saw it, and what's disturbing is Texas, for those that don't know, Texas had an off-year special election for a state legislative Senate district. I believe it was District 9 in the suburbs of Dallas, Fort Worth, that has a big Hispanic population. The Hispanic vote shifted in net margin by 50 points away from the Republican. Almost all of the big losses happened because of Hispanic vote shift.
Yeah.
And what they're relying on in Florida is Hispanic continued support for Trump. That may happen in Florida because of the unique makeup of that Hispanic vote. And it's Cuban, Venezuelan, Puerto Rican. But I would note, I wouldn't trust the Puerto Rican side of that equation because the Puerto Rican vote in New Jersey completely flipped back to Democrat in November. And now the Mexican-American vote everywhere it's located, has been shifting back to numbers that are in some cases worse than Trump got in 2016.
Yeah.
And that's a disaster in Arizona. It's a disaster in Nevada. It's a disaster in Texas. And it's going to be a disaster in other places people aren't thinking about because you have 2, 3, 4% of the vote. Even when it's that low, it can be enough to tip the factor in a close race. So that's why Texas Senate race is not a guarantee. You're talking about losing anywhere up to 8 to 9 Senate seats, losing multiple governorships, multiple state legislatures, and losing.
Which is important. If the VRA, even if they get a favorable ruling on the VRA, I tried to explain this in a long tweet 2 weeks ago. You got to get that ruling sooner rather than later. If it comes early summer, it's not going to happen, guys. There are primaries that will already been done. By the way, there are also donors, big donors who give to super PACs, and they're going to push those politicians not to react because they don't want to have to divert money or spend more money. They will have way more say than you, who are going to be screaming, redistrict, redraw, hurry, hurry, hurry. They're not going to listen to you at the end of the day. They're going to ignore you and they're going to kick it until after the election. If Republicans get obliterated in those state legislatures like they have already in Iowa, in Pennsylvania, in all these other states, there will be a weakened Republican, if there's even a majority left, a weakened Republican majority, and they are the ones in charge of redistricting. So you understand they will be sitting there with their tail between their legs, and they're not going to carve up the map the way you think they're going to. They're going to be timid, they're going to be scared, and they're going to be favorable to Democrat. They will absolutely. So you won't even get many benefits from that VRA decision. I'm telling you, that's the way it's going to go, Robert. I know Republicans, Republicans. I mean, they are not strong-willed, tough guys. When they take a beating, they don't say, you know what, the hell with it. We're still going to press forward. That's the Democratic Party. The Republican Party retreats. They end up cowards. They crawl in the fetal position, stick their thumb in their mouth, and cry out for their mommy like a bunch of little sissy-ass girls they are. No offense even to women who I know are way tougher than most Republican men that serve in office. Honestly, we've seen this over and over again with, Anna Paula Luna and so many other ones that are even in Congress, serving Congress. Republican women are way tougher than those little pansies that call themselves men. They will collapse, they will capitulate, they will give up, and they will render the VRA basically a moot point. So this is really, really important for everybody to understand. You need that ruling like soon. Very, very soon. You think it's going to They think they're going to get bailed out by it. I'm trying to explain to them there's a very high probability that they will not, because you're a lawyer and you're obviously more about the Supreme Court than I do. They don't tend to issue rulings like this early. The only way I think that they would is if they are like acutely aware of the impact that this ruling will have on control of Congress. So what do you think, though? I mean, because somebody like who we told Ben Shapiro and the rest of them were idiots, like, Amy Coney Barrett was not the one to get. It should have been what's her name? Oh my God. Yeah. I mean, why? Because that's somebody who understands the danger of leftism in its purest form. And she would have been much more willing to take it, to tackle it by the horns. Like, when you're someone who came from a place decimated by Marxism, you understand there's nowhere else to go. This is the last stand. So she would have had more balls than the rich white girl, okay, who comes from the South and, is basically the Southern female version of Chief Justice Roberts. Like, that's what she reminds me of. And so, like, when you think of like Alito or even Gorsuch, I think those guys are going to think, I think we probably should get this out soon. Like, this is pretty important, and they're going to understand the weight, the gravity of the situation. The other ones are cowards.
Yeah. What do you think? And like someone was asked about what's new MAGA versus OG MAGA. Sort of OG MAGA are the people who left the Democratic Party to vote Trump in 2016. New MAGA is people who didn't vote for Trump in 2016, but did in 2024. And you have different generational dynamics. The Laura's part Puerto Rican, right?
She is. Indeed.
Yeah. So, you got lived experience. You're Italian, part Puerto Rican. By the way, the reason why Richard hides his wife is he doesn't want anybody stealing his hot wife. That's what's going on.
She is smoking, isn't she?
That's a secret. It's not humility or anything else. The
vice president was like, dude, why don't you show this woman more? He was like, this makes you look like the man.
Best way to prevent anybody stealing your wife, don't let anybody see her. New York Italian advice. But you look at so that new MAGA is sort of the younger voter, disproportionately Black and Hispanic, Mexican and Puerto Rican. These are people that weren't on the Trump train in 2016. Some came over in 2020. A bunch more came over in 2024. These are voters for whom their job prospects are not getting better right now. Their cost of living is not getting better right now, particularly on things like housing and healthcare, particularly bad. These are people who wanted accountability. As Mark Mitchell likes to talk about, they just say, give me a torch, point me the direction. Yep. And they don't care if it's Trump or Mamdani that's asking them to do it.
Yep.
That's who. So you have to understand this new MAGA is a distinct constituency. What doesn't help is when you go out there and say you want to keep housing prices inflated for your boomer condoners.
Oh my God, that was so bad. I cringed, Robert. I was like, no, he really did not say that. Like, how could you can't be any clearer? These people have no prospects to buy homes. They think that older generations, and by the way, I agree with them. By the way, I do. I really do. Like, for years I didn't. And I was, more typical kind of Republican thinking, would suck it up and just like work harder. That's bullshit. The entire system's rigged against them. I'm 44 and I'm like on the Generation X to millennial line. And I just fought and worked hard and just got it. And now, of course, I want my home's price to go up. I want to make a nice chunk off of it. But I'm not ignoring the fact that if you're younger than me, especially if you're looking at the boomers who have it all, and they squandered it. They just blew the debt. They got fooled by every government hoax out there since the Gulf of Tonkin. Actually, longer than that. These are the children who are of people who were fooled by the Lusitania bullshit. All right. Like, these people are myth believers, as Jack Snyder calls them in Myths of Empire. We're a myth believing society. And the younger part of that generation is not anymore. They're not. They're much more realist by nature. But they're looking at these myth believers and they're like, are you stupid? Like, are you selfish? Are you stupid? Are you both? Like, you have literally look at the debt clock. This is what you did to us. Like, you squandered our inheritance and now you didn't even guard the value of our citizenship. So these people, they look, I can't, I don't know how like they go out, they vote for Donald Trump. I don't know how Donald Trump does that. I just don't understand how he didn't know, that was the dumbest thing you could possibly say about the housing market. I mean, especially if you want to get these people back. And I'm going to show it in a second. I'm going to show the data. I'm like updating it as we go here. I want to show people like the swings. Like, you have got to get these people back, especially young women who just feel like, I mean, young men too, but I mean, just the young female swing, they just feel like it's hopeless. They do.
The only voter group that's really maintained Trump support through his first term are voters over the age of 60 for whom their primary source of information is Fox News.
Yeah.
Who identify as conservative Republican.
Yeah.
That's it. Every other group, he's down as much as 20, 25, 30 points in net swings.
I can actually show that right now.
In intensity. Yeah. And another example of it is this past week, he picks, I heard from people in the White House that were, I heard from multiple people that they said, hopefully whatever Trump does, he doesn't pick Kevin Warsh to be new chair of the Federal Reserve. Kevin Warsh is the guy who, throughout the global financial crisis, was saying, our priority's got to be inflation. Screw the unemployed. That's who he is. He is the son-in-law of Ronald Lauder, of Estee Lauder, who is one of the big donors trying to drag Trump into all these foreign wars.
President of the Republican Jewish the
World Jewish Congress, literally.
Yeah.
And that's who he's going to make as his Fed chairman. This is a guy who will betray Trump at a moment's notice. He is known. He's a hawk. He wants higher interest rates, not lower interest rates. He doesn't care about unemployment at all. He's a globalist to the core. He's in the Epstein files.
He's in the Epstein files.
Trump was going around telling people, I think, and he's like, but he looks like he's out of central casting. I was like, how did that work out with Mike Pence? He's right out of central casting.
Yeah, same thing he said, by the way. That's the same thing he said of Mike Pence. That is what he said. Like, he looks like a vice president. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's how you got screwed.
Yeah.
For the love of God, Mr. President, you're not running a reality TV show.
The country.
You're running a nation. And so, I mean, I'm hoping that there's still opportunity for him to withdraw Warsh's nomination. Warsh would be a disaster at the Federal Reserve, not only from a messaging perspective, but from a policy perspective. He's got a guy that's been fighting on the Federal Reserve currently. That was the Trump appointee arguing we got to lower rates. We got to make things more affordable, especially in the housing market. That has to be our priority, not worrying about Wall Street's other parochial focal points. And Waller, that would have been a smart, sound, and I would say safe relative choice because he's already on the Federal Reserve. Yeah. But he's somebody who actually, what Americans want is the Federal Reserve to be audited. What they want is Jerome Powell in prison for his crime.
Everybody hates the Fed.
Exactly.
Everybody hates the Fed, dude. This is like a no-brainer, another no-brainer. Everyone hates the Fed. When Donald Trump was screaming at Jerome Powell over interest rates, you drop rates for Democrats, you hack. They agreed with him. They absolutely believe the Fed is politicized, and they help Democrats when they help Republicans. Even if it's not the right call, they're still mad at the fact that they're not willing to do that. They're not willing to commit to quantitative easing and lower interest rate policy. Their monetary policy is different depending on who the president is in the White House. And they don't even care if it's right or sound. They want them to apply monetary policy equally. And they know that they're politicized. So then even the left has their own reasons for hating the Fed. So this was, again,
they're pointing out in the chat. I mean, Warsh was one of those young global leaders identified by the World Economic Foundation. That's who this guy is. He's as deep state as deep state. He was a original steering committee member of the Bilderberg Group.
Bilderberg. Yes.
The old European royalty group that would like to reimpose kings across Europe. I mean, that's the foundation of the globalist institutions. He could not have picked a worse person. I mean, people were playing on his words. We went from Powell to Warsh. We went from bad to Warsh.
Bad to Warsh.
Yeah, for all of his name. But you should pick your Fed chairman not based on donor connections,
Yeah.
not based on how much you think he fits as central casting, but somebody who's aligned with the MAGA voter. And there's still opportunity for him to pull that back, because if he pushes through on Warsh, it's going to enhance the disaster that is coming from the policy perspective in the economy.
Let me ask you this, because Mark Halperin was right about something, and I thought about it. Like, here's Scott Bessent, who is, whether you like him or not, extremely well connected in that world. He's the leader of the search for the new Fed chair. Listen, guys, for those who don't know this, Warsh was floated by the donor class to Trump back in 2017. And Trump looked at him and said, no, right? No. And ironically, for some of the same reasons, he's now saying that he picked him. I go back with his dad to the Wharton School, right? And guys, it's not just that he's the president of the Jewish World Congress. It's that he's the former president of the Jewish World Congress who called on the nation's governments to implement strict prison sentences for critics of the nation of Israel. So, like, you're talking about people who just don't believe in American ideals like the First Amendment, all right? And especially not for which is all through the Epstein files, the goyim, right? You're the little people, you're the little stupid people, and you don't deserve the same treatment that they deserve. It's the way they think. But he looked at this guy, and he was like, you kidding me? A Bilderberg? No. And Trump never comes back. He almost, and I challenged Mark. I was like, Mark, because he said almost never circles back to pick picks that he has passed on before. And I thought to myself, looking back all these years, he's never turned back and picked somebody that he passed on. Like, he's never second guessed himself or went back and did that. I couldn't think of a single example when he did. So you and I both know nobody wanted this job. All right. So this is another big thing. A lot of people, and this is why I think there is a bias toward Rubio in the White House, because too many things like this are getting back to the president, but it's just true. Everyone's looking forward to Vance. All right. And people are like, I don't want to fucking screw my chances. I'm like, I don't want to hurt myself now. I don't. And so they're not dying to line up to work for Donald Trump. It's just, guys, I hate to say this out loud. I don't know how many people have said it out loud yet, but it is a fact. You meet with people and that is what you will hear. Well, so I wonder how much of that is going on. I wonder how much of that is.
Well, to highlight that aspect, this is why people like Vice President Vance, people like Secretary Kennedy, others have to protect their allies in other parts of the administration.
Yeah.
Because those people that are willing to take the risk, are willing to do it, are seeing that the people that they know over the last year have either had their knees cut off from underneath them and trying to do something, or had nasty campaigns waged against them.
Yeah.
And so if you don't protect your people in the administration, the message that goes to other people who would like to help the administration, you don't want to be like having Chad Mazzell out there saying, please, if you're a lawyer, please come work for us. Please. Well, Chad, part of the problem is what you did when you were at the Justice Department and sabotaging other divisions of the department to help certain lobbyist pals.
Yeah.
So don't do that next time. Protect the people that are doing good work, because otherwise the people that are trying to do good work, if people like us see from the outside that they're getting railroaded, well, then people like us aren't going to volunteer to work in the administration. You're getting right now, Trump is becoming radioactive amongst MAGA people who want to make a difference.
Who want to make a difference.
I'm going to sit back. I'm going to wait until see what happens. And if Vance has a chance, I'll work with Vance, because a lot of them still have great confidence in Vance. His reputation is still very good up there. But Trump is poisoning the well on a regular basis, and going after the Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world hurt that cause.
Bad. That was bad.
Thomas Massey's of the world hurt that cause.
Yeah.
So it quit going. Why he had to do it again the other day is beyond me. But what it does, it sends the message: oh, don't be loyal to Trump. Don't put your neck out on the line for Trump. And then all he gets stuck with are a bunch of corrupt, grifting lobbyists trying to line their own pockets and treat their positions of power like a personal cash register.
Who will get impeached?
Yes.
And then end up
hurting him all those pardons early. That's what they're all thinking of. They're assuming Trump's going to pardon everybody on his way out the door. But for Vance, he needs that not to happen, because otherwise it will completely sabotage his effort to 2028.
Yeah, I think that's what you just said, man. There's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that, and it's unfortunate because that paralyzes an administration if that's the case. We did start to see that in the first administration. It wasn't for the same reasons, but we did start to see a lot of people want to pass on jobs, and like if you're on the outside looking in and you're seeing that, I mean, I hear this so much. Look at Cernovich's tweets yesterday about cash and the FBI. And somebody in the chat had brought up OG MAGA before, for like the OG MAGA peeps, some of whom were like Bernie supporters. You and I definitely saw the appeal of Bernie going all the way back then. But also the overlying appeal of Trump, because back then Bernie was not the Bernie he is today. He had an A rating from the NRA. He was vehemently opposed to illegal immigration. He was vehemently opposed to the WTO and NAFTA and all that. Now he's just a typical hack Democrat, or hack leftist, but he wasn't back then. And Trump basically stole his entire rural coalition that he had battling Hillary Clinton in 2016. He didn't steal it. Trump earned it, and he won it back. But moving, we saw that the OG people were hurt. Like the big name, outspoken supporters of Donald Trump. One we just lost not long ago, Scott Adams. He was one of the OGs. People were persecuted. They lost millions of dollars in potential income over the years. Some of us were thrown in jail. All right. I was just funny. All the years I've known Peter Navarro, when I was at the White House, I heard his voice. He heard mine. He was coming out of the Oval. He was just meeting with the president. And I'm, walking down the hallway in the West Wing, and I'm like, Peter Navarro. Turn around, and I'm like, holy shit, we've never met in person. He was like, I was in jail, like, don't forget how much people suffered for supporting Donald Trump. And it's like some of the, the new, I don't even want to call them new MAGA, the wannabe MAGA, the clapping seals, right? I think some of them clap because they're fakes and they're trying to cheerlead Trump into the ditch. All right. I think honestly, definitely the influencer crowd, we see that often. But there's also some who are just like new and just are now being entertained by the tough talk and the show that it comes along with Donald Trump. Where some of the OGs like Mike, I totally understood Mike's frustration. He went off. I remember when you and I found out about that investigation in 2017, and then I went and told Mike he was being investigated by the FBI, and he already knew. He was like, thanks, brother. But yeah, I know. And I'm like, basically, they got two sick leftists, who were clearly mentally ill, to say that Mike had these Kremlin ties. And then Mike had said, he tweeted things like this, and I'll just give people a general idea of what some people have been through. I think it's important for you to understand, some of you just are anonymous and you support Trump on social media. You have no skin other than what happens with public policy. Others were hurt personally, and now if they're being let down, they're not going to just clap like a seal. They have put personal sacrifice into this thing. And Mike tweets something like, we shouldn't be enemies with Russia. We should be a natural ally. We have to fight the Chinese. This is they're Christians. At least they are, they're a majority Christian country and their traditional values, something that is totally reasonable, right? And we should then they use those tweets, guys, to go to the FISA court to get a FISA warrant to spy on Mike, based on that being corroboration for these two retards who are clearly mentally ill, making up shit about him. Anyway, I got wind of it, and I still have the DM. I looked it up yesterday when he was going off. These people the people who acted badly at FBI, we were talking about all the problems with DOJ, they're being protected. Shit, the person who put you and I on a list, you were number 50-something, I was number 70-something, that motherfucker got a promotion. Cash promoted him. You know what I'm saying? So this is unbelievable. Robert, I was blacklisted because I created the polling critic industry. All these friggin' wannabes, I won't even mention their names. All of these ex-People's Pundit wannabes. All right. They weren't even around when those of us were taking real beatings. And I wasn't doing it to back Trump. I was doing it for the voter. I lost millions and millions of dollars being blacklisted. I just got on Real Clear Politics after being the most accurate pollster since Trump came down the escalator in 2016. And in fact, if you go back to the stuff we did in 2014, we were even the most accurate then. I was blacklisted. I can't even imagine how much money I lost because of what I did. And it's just like, I felt for Mike, man. I did. I'm listening, I'm reading his tweets and I'm like, he's right. He's right. Because we are hearing this everywhere. This one spent his life savings to run for Congress, and Trump endorsed the rhino and fucked him over. I know another friend, I'm not going to say his name, he's hugely pissed right now, in the trenches with me in 2016, had been trying to get his best friend Trump's endorsement after like taking the grenades, bro. Forget about darts or whatever, arrows, forget bullshit, grenades some of us took, all right? And Trump fucked him and endorsed somebody even more liberal and going to be a bigger problem than the incumbent he's trying to defeat in that primary. And it's like, well, why? Well, you know why, and I know why. You can go look, who's running the pack? That would be Chris. Who's polling for the campaign? Right, that'd be Tony. And it's like, these people were not around. Like, Chris was talking about throwing him in jail on January 6th, bro, like impeaching him and throwing him in jail. While my pollster friend was like, already an OG, already like a warrior, for the truth. And I just found myself yesterday, Robert, reading Mike's shit and saying, you know what? He does deserve better than this. He does. He deserves more than this.
James O'Keefe, who was the victim.
James O'Keefe.
Kash Patel still refuses to unredact that bogus warrant from the Biden administration.
It's all black, Robert. It's all black.
Kash Patel has now been caught committing perjury before Congress, lying about either A, he never reviewed the Epstein files, or B, he lied about what was in the files. Either way, he has committed perjury, a federal crime, and you can't have that as your FBI director. It is an embarrassment to the Trump administration, and he's a potential impeachable individual. Let Andrew Bailey, deputy director at FBI, former deputy attorney general in the state of Missouri, where all the great populists come from, Senator Schmidt, who would also make a great attorney general, by the way, Senator Hawley, who would also make a great attorney general, by the way.
Now he's got a problem with Hawley, though, too. Another loyalist,
I know. It's because he's got all the wrong people whispering in his ear, and he's chosen to do certain things. Kirk's favorability is due in part to Candace. No, it is not. Candace Owens is still mostly unknown in the country, folks. But we'll have that data for you down the road.
It's remarkably true.
Yeah, she's very much a niche actor mostly with non-voters, by the way. That's who mostly really is her big fan base. People who never vote. So she's irrelevant, inconsequential politically. Is about to get sued by Turning Point, but they have to get in line because the Macrons are going to take
Jesus, dude, they're going to have her ass, bro. How could they? I mean, you're the lawyer, but I just don't know how she's not going to be bankrupted by the Macrons, bro. I mean, bankrupted. Like she's going to lose that. Am I wrong?
Well, the advantage is she's married into son of a British lord. So he presumably has his assets independently entrusted. That's why she's not worried. She knows she could lose every penny, nickel, diamond, dollar that comes to her, and it completely not matter because has independent sources of old money wealth. Yeah. Which ask yourself, what kind of revolutionary take down the system person is married into the son of a British lord? Just saying, it's a crock at so many different levels. But what's extraordinary is she has had so little impact. She's had no negative impact on Charlie's public reputation whatsoever. But as we wrap up for this one, let's get to the super chats. So if you have a question, just put in a super chat and we'll get to it.
And perfect timing too. I just finished. I have more nested demographics that I want to add to it, but I got the main ones. So in between some of them, I'm going to throw this up. I think you guys will find this. Like Robert nailed it. Like, so by region, Robert, his biggest net swing, right? Negative net swing is in areas of the country, the South and the Midwest, where he absolutely needs to win. Where he hasn't moved that much is in the West. And even in the Northeast. Yeah, he lost points in the Northeast. It's a negative 9.4 swing, but that's nothing compared to the 11.2 in the Midwest, where you have to be popular. You have to be. So it's just that net, if you give you guys the difference, you're just going to shit your pants. It's not, you can't sustain a movement like that. You just can't. It's a negative 23.6 among Hispanics, negative 22.6 combined in the Midwest, negative 19.9 in the South. Meanwhile, he lost about a point in the West and about 2 points in the Northeast. And it's not like they're great. It's just that it goes to show you he didn't really have like there wasn't much more room to swing away, Robert, is what I'm trying to say. All of the areas where it matters is where he had these huge swings. And among age groups, tiny little swings among seniors, tiny little, compared to these monstrous swings among the heart of the working class, where you absolutely, that's his whole base. So while you have all of these 4-year degrees and above saying, oh, I somewhat approve, propping him up and keeping him in the 40s, it doesn't matter because those people are voting for the Democrat anyway on the generic ballot, and it's not going to help him. Let's go to the Super. Holy shit, there's quite a few of them. All right, Rich. Republican voter apathy is very real, but I'm also seeing massive Dem policy and culture rejection. Is 2028 another outsider cycle? Can JD play that angle? Here's the problem, and I agree with you, because Democrats, like even on the ICE thing, they overstepped. Americans don't want ICE defunded. They don't want deportations to stop. They just want it done correctly in the way they think makes sense. And all the administration had to do is make minor changes, but leave it to Democrats to overstep. The problem is their voters are still going to vote. All right. And so yes, the rejection of their central ideas is true. But it doesn't matter if those people who reject them are that the apathy is too much. I call it a MAGA malaise. It's too much. They're not coming out to vote. I will say this, and I told him right to his face. If this continues, JD should sit 2028 out because they will get their asses kicked. By 2032, the Electoral College is going to be much easier for a Republican to win. It's just the nature of where the votes. Then you won't even need to win the Midwest the way Trump does. It'll run through the Sun Belt. Putting 270 together will largely run through the Sun Belt, and it'll be much easier for JD to win if he waits. He'll be the I told you so candidate. Let Ron DeSantis and Marco Rubio, who are trying to outflank him behind his back, let them lose. Okay? And if this keeps up, let them lose. Because right now, if he runs as Trump's successor with this environment, he's going to get killed. I'm sorry, guys. He is. Anyone is.
The reason why Republicans are still in the game is because Democrats do not have buy-in and have their own elite corruption issues. Much like the Republicans did. Like the Republicans the Democrats could come back against Republicans because Republicans were weak, and even though they won in 2010, 2014, because there wasn't buy-in within their party base. Trump solved that problem. Right now, Democrats don't have a Trump, and that creates opportunity for the Republicans to rebound in 2026, creates an opportunity for Vance in 2028, but they need to course correct. Otherwise, there'll be so loss of confidence and so much anger directed at them that even though people have severe doubts, it will be like Republicans in 2010, Republicans 2014. Base was very unhappy with the Republican Party brand. Independents were very unhappy with the Republican Party brand, but they were more angry at the Democrats than they were unhappy with the Republican Party brand, and they were able to do well. So, but unless Democrats find their own Trump, the door will always be open for a Republican candidate. But at some point, it gets so toxic, like if he were to get involved in a dumb long war with Iran, that to Rich's point, Vance is better off waiting for a different electoral environment 4 years away after a failed Democratic presidency to be able to come back. Now, if the Republican Party doesn't fix itself, and the Democratic Party never fixes itself, then you could see in the U.S. what you're seeing in the UK, which is the complete collapse of the two major parties and a different, not just a third party surge like we've had in the past that helped, that one of the parties finally adopted into to be able to build. Like that's how they reacted to Perot and Nader and George Corley-Wallace and the progressive movement and Upton Sinclair and all that going on, and the Populist Party movement before that and the Greenback movement. But you could have like the Republican Party of the 1850s, which became one of the two major parties. You could have a Libertarian Party, some other party come up aboard, some independent party, Elon Musk, America Party. Somebody else could step into the gap because America's political appetite for the two-party system will collapse if neither party reforms itself to deliver for voters. I think we've run out of space where they can keep failing to deliver and just use the other party's failure to keep maintaining power. They can do that for a cycle or two, but it's running out unless that's why if you're an institutionalist out there, you should be listening to the advice that we're giving, because your parties are going to collapse unless you start addressing the needs of the American voter.
Yeah, you can't continue this forever, guys. It doesn't. I know you have this, like, we have this false sense of security in the two-party system in the United States because up until recently, we haven't been like other countries. We do let the air out. Like, we build up pressure and then the pendulum swings, and that is like a release valve in public pressure, and that has begun to break down, and that we haven't seen in the past, like we have seen in Britain, like we're seeing in France, and have seen in other we have seen in the past in other countries like in Western Europe. I just think that's why I alluded to this earlier in the show, where I think Republicans at this point, and I mean, Robert and I have been saying they have to course correct very soon, or it's over. I'm starting to get to the point now where I believe they have missed the window to complete the realignment. And two things could happen if that's the case. We could have a situation like we saw in 92, where there was a massive fracture of their coalition into what became the Ross-Perot coalition. And that took 10 years for the Republicans to get back. And then they lost it again because of Bush, and they didn't get back that part, or that demographically similar and attitudinally similar part of the coalition, until Trump came around. The problem is that this is like, we're getting to a point in our country where the problems are getting overwhelming, and people are going to run. They can't just expect the pendulum to continue to be sufficient for the public who is really running. They know they're running out of time. And that's what I think a lot of politicians don't appreciate. The public does know that the hour's late, and they viewed, this is the issue with these voters, Robert, they viewed Trump and Vance as their last chance. And if they fail them, I literally am afraid, guys. I'm not joking. I literally am afraid. I think they're going to swing hard left. I think they're going to nominate AOC, who, by the way, you may have noticed, jumped in our polling this month. All right. I think they're going to nominate someone. Gavin can't win. He can't win unless every black and brown leader in the Democratic Party rushes to his side and gets their voters to vote for him. He's a slick, white, coastal liberal, and they do very poorly in modern Democratic primaries. I also hate this idea of inevitability, because this idea of the pendulum swing is a creation. It's like an artifact of the modern era, because in the past, these parties kept their promises largely. Like, rent seeking has overcome the political process. That's why Democrats were able to rule in the Roosevelt era for 30 years. That's why Republicans were able to rule for, the Coolidge, and before that, they kept their promises largely, and they fundamentally changed the direction of the country the way that the voter wanted. We saw with Grover Cleveland, the only other two non-consecutive terms, and that was something similar to what we see here with Donald Trump. The problem is that Donald Trump that they reelected is not the Donald Trump they expected they were going to get. And I'm sorry, but that is true. And it's like, if you're a Trump voter and you're a Trump supporter, you should definitely start to listen, because you support him no matter what. And a partisan's biggest mistake is always that when he looks at other voters, he thinks he's looking in the mirror, and he thinks that they mirror his worldview. They're as partisan as they are. And things like, oh, but the other guy is worse, works on them. It doesn't. I mean, that's just not how the rest of the public acts. And they're forgiving, but the next question really says it. The next question, the next super chat on Not on Locals on YouTube is really the heart of the matter and the problem that they're having. All right. Hightower says, Trump will go down as a tragic president, exonerated by the people, but betrayed the will of the people. Devalue of the dollar accelerated, continuation of wars, the Epstein mishandling, Israel ties, etc., etc. Look, this is true. This is the way a lot of people feel right now. They feel that they deserved better than this. They literally, and it's true. Guys, are they wrong? Donald Trump was going to spend the rest of his natural life in a prison cell until the American public rose up and said, oh, fucking hell no. And they did that to defend him, as a way to tell him we made a mistake and we're sorry. We're trying to make it right. We want you to come back. We want our Trump back. That is what the American public was saying. And they did not get that Trump. And it's not because COVID changed the economy. All right. Like, that's not what happened here, guys. This Trump opened the doors to the donor class. This Trump has allowed a tiny foreign nation to dictate more than half of our foreign policy. I mean, I can go and get the chart up again. You can see when the domestic agenda was derailed. It was derailed by Israel first. We can't go through a single poll without the texting component getting some kind of meme back of like Donald Trump, like AI'd as a rabbi. It's awful. You guys don't understand if you're not opening your eyes to this. What Hightower is saying is right. This is like, you know what? This is going to be tragic. We exonerated him. You know, this was our way of even saying we're sorry. And this is what he did. It's not, and I'm not saying Trump didn't do a lot of good things, but the fact of the matter is, guys, the right is losing. The left gets in office, they get in power, and they make big changes, big reforms. They codify them so that they will change the nature of the relationship between the individual and the state forever. And then Republicans get in, they tinker around the edges, they fall over themselves, they trip over their own dicks, and then they start serving foreign interests and they blow it. That's what and that's why Republicans are losing the overall fight, and the right is losing the overall fight. They are. What do you think, Robert?
Well, I see there's three chances. Trump could be a transformative president, Trump could be a transitional president, or Trump could be a tragic president. I think the opportunity for him to be a transformative president is quickly slipping away. So the question is, could he be a transitional president to Vance's transformative presidency to rescue the America's constitutional republic from the forces of globalism and internal saboteurs? Or will he be the tragic president, the lost opportunity guy? Much in many respects as Ulysses S. Grant kind of was. Ulysses S. Grant was a great general, a good man in many respects.
Yeah.
But his second term went so off the rails. They let the railroads go crazy. The corrupt corporate trust kind of start to build their power in such a way that it took a populist revolution another generation away for McKinley-style republicanism and Teddy Roosevelt-style republicanism to take hold. Grant could have had that opportunity then. Not only that, if Grant would have kept his word, he would have protected the South and black voters and poor working class white voters from being abandoned and disfranchised from 1896 to 1966. But, these great opportunities he lost. And the Trump could end up a similar tragic president unless he takes the advice of those who have been in his corner from the get-go. So it's up to Trump. I think transformative presidency, very unlikely now. Transitional presidency, still possible. And like people were asking, well, if the midterms are gone, what's the point? The point is, if Trump could start to course correct now, even if it isn't enough to salvage the midterms, it is enough potentially to salvage 2028. And then Vance could have a transformative presidency that could restore the American constitutional republic. And I think he has the confidence, security. Unlike Trump, Vance is a very emotionally secure individual, a very self-confident person. He is less dependent and has proven over his short and abbreviated political career, less worried about the donor class than Trump has become. And that's largely because he's so self-confident in who he is and what he's doing and why he's doing what he's doing. He doesn't have the same ego deficiencies, to be blunt about it, that Donald Trump has. So that's why he has a great potential to be a transformative president, and Donald Trump, the transition to that occurring. But if he doesn't course correct, then I agree with the poster. He'll go down as one of the great tragic presidencies and tragic figures of American political history.
By the way, in between of the history that Robert just cited was the assassination of a really good man, all right, who tried to come in after Grant and fix shit. And he did. Actually, Chester Arthur would eventually finish what he started, but which was amazing because Chester Arthur didn't give a fuck about anything but his drinking and his women until Garfield changed his soul. Really, I mean, that's the story, But in between, there was
Mama, where's my pa? Gone to the White House. That was the old slogan about dear Chester.
Yes. But he wound up at least ending the disgustingly corrupt. I don't even think I could use the word patronage system, Robert. It was so bad, it was so bad. And I think, Robert, too, what you just said is that even if it doesn't salvage the midterms, if he does course correct, Trump's best defense against what Democrats plan to do is his popularity. They could have gotten Reagan based on the violations. By the way, neocons almost took Reagan down too, by the way. Reagan was good until the neocons got too much influence in this administration, and they committed what are essentially war crimes and international crimes and all sorts of shit. And they would have taken Reagan down, but they couldn't. The guy was too popular. And so even if Trump screws up the midterms, but course corrects himself and wins back his popularity by doing the big things that Robert and I are saying he needs to do, then he can protect himself from 26 to 28. His suit of armor will ultimately be the popularity he has with the American public. I always have told you guys that I don't know that Republicans were ever going to be as successful as Trump or as popular as Trump, because they needed to convince the world that they were more like Trump, not that Trump was more like them. And that is what, for the latter, is unfortunately what has happened here. So I think that I really do believe that they've missed the boat on the realignment. I do. The hate is bad. You guys, if you had my job, you would listen day in and day out. I'm one of the only pollsters I know who still interview people myself. I hop on, I want to talk to people. The hate is back to a level I've not seen since people believe the Russia hoax. Like, it's ridiculous. And I just don't know how he gets out of that, other than what, Robert, I think he would agree. Robert, I think you'd agree. He's the most powerful man in the world. He could tell Miriam Adelson to go fuck herself right now. He could tell Benjamin Netanyahu to go pound fucking sand right now. He could do whatever he wants. He's Trump. He's Donald Trump. He could seize back the attitudinal appeal that he has had, from the jump. And it took some others some time to see. But he could do it right now. He doesn't need anyone's permission. All right. He's got this issue. He wants to be liked. And he thinks, I don't know, I'm protecting my family after the term is over. You're not. There's only one way to protect yourself and to save and salvage your legacy. And the only way out is through, bro. That's it. The only way out is through. Otherwise, you will go down as the tragic president, like Steve is saying. You will. It's the way it's going to happen. Like Brian Barnes is right. Trump is being sabotaged by his people. Likewise, someone needs to tell Tony Soprano, his Italian Benevolence Association, apparently being run by an organized crime ring. We tried. I don't know. What do you think about that, Robert? I mean, we tried. I don't know what else there is to do, honestly.
There's definitely aspects of that. I understand that frustration. It's an understandable frustration. There's always opportunity, just because the current electoral environment is very fluid, because the Democratic Party is very issue-wise weak and has a similar elite donor-driven co-option of the political class within it, the professional managerial. I mean, they mismanaged golden opportunities, like what took place in the Twin Cities, by going too far in the other direction. Yeah. So that's the advantage Republicans still have, and that Trump still has, is that the other side is still very weak. They're not presenting or posing. It's like being in a competition where your product isn't delivering, but nor is your competitors. Yeah. And that's what affords them this extraordinary opportunity to course correct. And if they don't, the voters will find a third option to make it work.
Yeah, I would. I don't really have anything to add to that. I think that's right. I think there's this other one coming up too. And by the way, thanks for your super chats as always. Laura's always like, you don't thank people. And so I need to. Actually, I was looking at another one, but we'll get there in a second. When running for office, how do you recruit people to your campaign and filter who are good and bad actors? That's a very difficult question. I mean, like, honestly, their history and their resume will tell you a lot, right, Robert? I mean, that's what do we always do?
I mean, what there needs to be for those out there that want to make a difference, I think contributing your skill set into getting involved in the campaign world as a part-time occupation, or it would be very helpful and productive, because right now the corrupt class of the consulting class monopolizes it, and they have a unhealthy, incestuous relationship with the donor class. Yeah. And so we need more independent people. Don't make it your career job, because if you make it your career job, you're going to get stuck in the donor trap. Make it a part-time job, a side job. to be involved in these independent movements. Maha movement has really taken off and can activate people all across the country in a grassroots way. Look at that. If you're looking for who would be good to help volunteer, help organize, go to the local Maha people. That's one of the best places right now. It used to be on the Democratic side. You could go to the local union guy, who knew the local, et cetera. Those have been so co-opted by the professional managerial class that even your local, they just mostly don't exist anymore. But look for, and it used to be on the right, you could trust the local pastors of the religious right movement. You can't right now because the Israeli donor class has bought a bunch of them off. So I would say Maha people. Otherwise, find people who are good local organizers, local activists, cause-driven people. And then, we're looking at trying to build through 1776 Law Center some independent templates for how to run for office, how to campaign for office, get some text together, some books, some little self-help books, but also build or get connected to people who are building micro-targeting for crowdsourcing donations to campaigns and crowdsourcing volunteer support for campaigns and crowdsource. Think about micro-targeting. So don't just focus on broad-scale advertising, because there you're going to spend a lot of money trying to reach 10 or 20 people when your goal is to reach just one of that group. Focus on that one person. These days, more and more of the databases that are out there have email data, direct mail data, phone data, social media account data of the most likely voter who's already aligned on the causes and issues you care about. Yeah. So, micro-target your campaign for campaign fundraising, for volunteers and voter outreach, and look to people that can help and facilitate you that are not in the campaign vendor space, because the campaign vendor space is filled with rogue actors.
Yeah, I agree with that. I was just looking at the Harvard-Harris trend of independent voters on the generic ballot. Really ugly. I don't mean to jump over this, but definitely backing up what we found. In October of 2018, among independents, it was Democrats plus 15. In October of 22, it was Republicans plus 8 with leaners. And now it's Democrats plus 28 with leaners. It's bad. It's bad. That's really bad. Yeah, and again, just the only thing I'd add to that, Povang, I'm like, when Barnes and I talk about just like the Treasury Secretary, for instance, I mean, the nomination for the Fed, or who's running some of these campaigns out there. If you look to see what they did in the past, and you're going to know. I mean, if you go into the established consultant world, you got to be careful. I mean, and it sucks, because often that's what you have to do. But in any way possible, you can find alternatives. Maha is the most excited right now still to get the things that they want done. I would also say they're probably the most pure, because MAGA, more MAGA, less Maha aligned. Some of them are so busy trying to kiss Trump's ass, and, they don't want to tell people the truth. And it's a sad state of affairs. Do Ed Martin and Gail think they were sold out? How does Vance signify he's not on board with selling out MAGA and Maha? Because this looks real bad.
I mean, I don't know what Ed thinks, but you can bring inferences, or what Gail Slater thinks, or what Harmeet Dillon thinks. I can tell you that you can infer from Ed because of the particular Bible verses he's posting. So you can go to his personal account of Eagle Ed Martin. Mm-hmm. He's telling you what's happening by the particular Bible verses he's currently posting.
That's so
just go through the last couple of days and you'll see that. Now, we've relayed the message to JD that people like Harmeet Dillon, Ed Martin, Gail Slater, others in the administration, Elbridge Colby, Tulsi Gabbard, Joe Kent, these are seen as allies of either Robert Kennedy, J.D. Vance, or both, and they need to go to bat for them. They need to do everything possible to protect them. If JD has more independent influence than anybody else in the White House, not named Donald Trump. And he's got to start exercising that power and utilizing that political capital. Otherwise, he won't have any capital left. What capital is there to conserve by not using it now if it's all gone by the time you go into the bag to get it? Mm-hmm. So start using it now to protect Ed Martin, protect Gail Slater, protect Harmeet Dillon, protect Elbridge Colby, he's already protected Colby in the past. He needs to do so again.
Gail should answer right to him, Robert. He should break Gail off.
Ed Martin and Gail Slater report. That was the idea of the fraud person. The fraud person is not someone that's well known in the MAGA space. So I don't know whether they're good or not, but I just know they're not known in the MAGA space. And I know Todd Blanche recommended them, so that makes me distrust him. He needs to utilize he has much more. He and Kennedy both have far more political capital than they appreciate. And Kennedy is using it everywhere he can. But now it's time for Vance to step up. He needs to start utilizing his political capital and leverage to protect his own position, if nothing else. He'll be protecting and helping Trump. He'll be helping and protecting the Republican Party. He'll be helping and protecting voters, but he'll be helping and protecting himself, because if he doesn't use that capital now, he won't have any when he needs it later.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And for those who don't know what we're talking about, when the vice president announced that he was going to make an assistant attorney general a fraud that from Minnesota's situation that was going to report right to him, our suggestion was that he do this with assistant attorney generals everywhere, especially like antitrust, if anywhere he felt like he needed to. But like Gail can't be subjected to Bondi's bullshit. Otherwise, she's not going to be able to do her job. Ed can't be subjected to apparently Blanche's bullshit. Otherwise, he can't do his job. And actually, it's more than just, I don't want to throw it all on Todd, because they're all going to try to protect each other. Like you said, the deal is we won't actually come after you. And that's because they feel like they can't do anything with the jurisdiction issue, right? And that's tough. That's their fault. Why did you bomb Israel? Why did you bomb Iran's nuclear facilities on behalf of Israel when your focus after the big, beautiful bill should have been breaking up jurisdictions, impeaching judges? Like, there were proposals that were well found, like in the first 150, 200 years of our history. This is what our leaders did to rein in the judiciary when it was out of control, and Republicans just didn't have the balls to do it. It was incumbent on the president and incumbent on the White House to tell the country, you already know, since he won the protect democracy vote, because the country knew that the system was corrupt. He should have used that political capital to break up bad jurisdictions, to remove judges like Boasberg. Instead, all we got is Ted Cruz. He takes his little bitch ass to the microphone one time, calls for the impeachment of Judge Boasberg, and then goes back and, slams his head against the wall for Bibi. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Performative politics. And like Mark and I tried telling everybody in Phoenix in December, the era of performative politics is over. And if you don't do this now, God help us all, because you can't just rely on what Robert said before, which is, one party win, go back and forth, frustration off, that you're living off the frustration, voter frustration of another party's lack of committing to their cause. And by the way, Democrats are committed to their cause. So every time this happens and the pendulum swings, you lose more ground. And then by the time it comes, it's like textbook Higgs, Crisis in Leviathan. You're not gaining any ground back. And whatever you are gaining, you're never getting back to the 0-yard line. You're never getting back to it. So you're losing little by little by little. You just get pushed back down the field. Why do the GOP and Trump continue ignoring the targeting of the Amish? Even the Duran ass track them as a test for legitimacy of reform and accountability. I skipped somebody's comment. I'm sorry. I'll come back to you, Jolly Pot. I missed your comment.
Yeah, I would just say actually there's some promise. It's just not from the Justice Department, unfortunately. The promise that we have is from the Agriculture Department and the Health Department. Yeah. So Secretary Rollins, the Agriculture Department, does want to make sure to correct policies in regards to small farmers and the Amish, and so does Secretary Robert Kennedy. So the problem is the Justice Department is not helping because pay for play pay is like, does Mike Davis have the Amish as a client? Oh, no, because they don't have millions of dollars.
So let's see that.
He's getting paid as much as $1 million a pop, folks.
Yeah.
$1 million a pop.
2.2 on Compass, apparently. Yeah. That's what I heard.
It's just huge.
2.2.
There's money after money from these big corporations. So unless you're a big
what do you think you're entitled to do that? Because you were on War Room defending Donald Trump against lawfare?
This guy was a nobody 4 years ago. We were the only before we put him on. Nobody knew who he was, and then he betrayed that by deciding to line his pockets. And that's why Arthur Schwartz is persona non grata for me. Mike Davis is persona non grata for me. But that's why
the whole movement, Robert. And like, when is enough enough? All right, you get one deal and you put $2.5-3 million in your pocket. You got to keep going. You're that greedy. Like you can't let MAGA's agenda move forward after that. At least
Oh,
It's
correct.
just
And people, by the way,
It's disgusting.
oh, you're making this up. No, I've seen it
No.
firsthand. I've got the direct intel and information from direct sources all across throughout the antitrust community is a very small community. And when people like Davis go to certain big
The Wall
corporations and
Street
pitch them
Journal's
X
on it,
amount,
Robert.
some
They
of those
can go
people
read the
reach
Wall
out to
Street
me and
Journal.
ask whether he's legit, and I'm like, he's a corrupt lobbyist. That's what he is.
They
But
can
that's how
go-
I've got that direct information. So that's why he's never going to send me a cease and desist letter. That's why he's never going to sue me, because he knows what I'm saying is absolutely God's truth. But you can find it out there. These idiots were bragging to every publication in the world.
It's in the go look at the Wall Street Journal's coverage of it. Go look at Bloomberg. And by the way, they're saving the juiciest for when it helps Democrats impeach people. They're not going berserk over it yet. But do you think we haven't gotten calls from journalists who want us to, enlighten them or speak on the record about how we hate it? That's what they want me to do.
Dustin is late to the party. The name is Mike Davis, and the other one is Arthur Schwartz. These are the corrupt lobbyists taking money to sell out MAGA.
It's like, again, I mean, you make some dough, you move on, Robert. I mean, whatever. Like, I understand. Like, and I haven't done that. I haven't done that myself, but I'm just saying, like, even if you did, it's like, then you move on. You don't sink the whole fucking movement over it, bro. Like, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable to me. While you are talking about popular issues that nobody runs on, what about end all aid to the ISR? Now a majority of U.S. citizens anti-Israel. How about a presidential candidate running on sending $0 to ISR? You might notice, Jolly, that even Lady Lindsey Grahamnesty is talking about ending it. That would be because the vast majority of even a state like his, which is a military-industrial complex state, they are anti-aid, period. Not to Israel, to everybody. They're done with it. We're talking like 70% of the Republican electorate, 60 to 70, depending on what you're asking. But they're just over it. So you may notice that he now is trying to pretend that he'll be anti foreign aid to Israel. It's such a crock of shit. And if the voters of South Carolina believe it, then guess what? I'm pulling a Jefferson quote. The government you elect is the government you deserve. Okay. Because very clearly these voters are not in line with him. It's just that, a lot of money works in politics. And when you have AIPAC and Miriam Adelson stuffing your PAC with 20, 30, $40 million, it's hard for an opponent to crack through that. And you don't need as much to be able to push your message, but you need enough to get your message pushed. And these are brutal, brutal people. The last person who tried to take on Lindsey Graham, he fucking destroyed. And he didn't even continue the, he didn't even continue the campaign. He ended it. And it's I didn't even know this story until Robert, by the way. Phil, not you, Robert, the other Robert, who was from originally South Carolina. He filled me in on it. He was like, "Ooh, dude, you don't take on that guy. He'll destroy." And it's like amazing now that some of the gay, I'm bringing it up, Robert. It's amazing now that some of the gay escorts are starting to come out and tell their stories to people. And then it's to me, and I said it, and now a reporter wants to know who I'm talking about. Your fucking job. Like he pimped a well-known gay conservative up and coming personality. Okay. He pimped this guy all over town and like everyone knew it. Like everyone in this certain circle knew it. And they just chose not to you being the bitch of the military industrial complex affords you a lot of protection. And then I tweet that and people are like, who are you talking about? Do your job. It's not my job to blow that guy up. That poor bastard's been through enough. But this is what he is. This is what he is. And I'm sure he thinks there's nothing wrong with it because I'm sure he thinks it's consensual and whatnot, or at least he'll claim that. But I mean, dude, that is not very conservative. That's not very this is just disgusting. It's disgusting. And it's not because even if it was heterosexual, it would be disgusting. You took, you took advantage of somebody who you had a massive power differential. It's just no different than what the point of the Me Too movement was. Like if you're you can't call in Megyn Kelly and ask for sexual favors to put Megyn Kelly on TV. If you're, Roger Ailes, you can't ask other women to do that. And by the way, I know something specifically with a former friend of mine. I haven't talked to her in a long time. That did happen to her at Fox News. She was a massive Trumper, and you may notice she's not there anymore. I can't believe her. I think it's her husband now. They weren't married. They were engaged at the time this happened. Dude, I can't believe you didn't fucking kill somebody and wring somebody's neck. This guy's big, number one, right? He will squish you like a bug. I can't believe he held this temper. Man, if it was me and that was Laura, I'm kicking Roger's door in and I'm fucking you up, Roger. No one's bending over a desk except for you, old man. All right. Like, I'm going to do this guy so dirty. And it's like, this is what goes on. And it's like the voters don't know it. You know, I mean, they just don't know it. They think Fox is like the Hallmark channel, like cable news. And they think, you know, Lindsey Graham is such a nice guy. And he's a jovial guy. He's super funny, you know, but I mean, these are dark people, bro.
Yep. And we'll be surveying as one of the issues the support of Israel. I can say from what I've seen in the public polling data, Israel is a political pariah on the Democratic Party. In the Republican Party, there's a deep split. Amongst older voters, they deeply support Israel. Amongst older evangelical, BoomerCon, Fox News voters, they don't want funding to cut off to Israel at all. Amongst voters under the age of 50, they do want funding cut off to Israel. So right now, it's a split issue in the Republican Party.
Yeah, I actually, among the, you know, there's even with the older voters, we asked the question about whether you think Israel has too much influence over Donald Trump and foreign policy. Only the older boomers said no. You know, only they are, you know, some of them said just about right. You know, they pulled bullshit responses like that. But among Democrats, I mean, it's bad, really bad. Democrats are.
This question, don't know yet. We'll find out when we do the nationwide 1776 Law Center poll to see we know these issues are popular with Democratic primary voters, food freedom, medical freedom, but I don't know how much the media hit pieces on RFK have stuck on the Democratic Party side. Don't know that.
We don't know that. It's been a while, guys, since we looked at that. Yep. That's been a while. And now he's an official in the Trump administration. So
that's I assume the numbers are going to be negative just for that reason.
Yeah, the Trump admin is like Trump University. Oh, shit. A shell company taking your money and delivering no service other than making money for the Trump family. Fuck, yeah.
That's an increasingly common sentiment amongst independent voters, and it's one of the things they need to course correct on.
Oh, my God. And locals, I'm coming to you quick. I'm just trying to get through these as fast as I possibly can, all right? And locals isn't honestly, it's not as bad. All right. When will a Trump endorsement hurt candidates?
In the GOP primary, probably not ever really. I mean, even when Nixon was at his depth, he still was supported within the Republican Party primary voter electorate.
Yeah.
But what it is how it will hurt is it will no longer help the way it used to help.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, we're actually even seeing that. I'm not saying it's weak. I'm just saying that the endorsement is less impactful than we've ever measured it as of now. And it's still, you want it, you know what I mean? But it's still not like, I've seen a Trump endorsement completely flip 20, 30 points. Ron DeSantis, guys, was down 20 something points. Trump endorsed him and he was up 25, 30 points. I mean, it was unbelievable. It was like a 45, 50 point net swing or something. It was crazy. And I've seen it happen in like 48 to 72 hours. I've been on the ass end of it. I remember when he came out for Cox and he killed Travis Allen, who was the Trumpiest candidate in that race. And I watched it and we were going to win that race. We were going to win that race, and he would have went up against Gavin Newsom. And Trump sent that tweet, and we literally watched it that night. And I remember Travis calling, going, "How bad is it, man?" It was like 6-8 hours, and I'm like, "We're down like 5 points." And then by Saturday, it was like fucking down like 15 points. And then it comes Sunday, we fucking lost. It was over. It was bad. I mean, it hurt. It was amazing. The Trump, it's not what it used to be, but you still want it. You know, the new START treaty, MIC salivating right now. What do you think about the START?
I mean, I don't know why Trump used to be big on nuclear nonproliferation. That was the pretext for going into Iran the first time. So I find peculiar the complete abandonment of any nuclear nonproliferation agreement like the START treaty with Russia and others. The Russia has left open the opportunity for him to expand it 1 year. He said he liked that idea.
Yeah,
I think the military industrial complex, to this questioner, is correct. doesn't want it because they see it as an opportunity to spend a lot more money on a lot of weapons that we never want to use.
Yeah.
So to me, a New START treaty made sense for Trump. Nixon was the one who put a lot of these great treaties in place in the first place that really slowed down the arms race in ways that was
underrated president.
Very underrated president. And I'm baffled that Trump is not taking the same path. He said publicly he's for it, and yet nothing has happened to extend it. So it looks like we will have no START treaty, no nuclear limitation treaty of weapons of those that are already nuclear powered countries for the first time since the 60s.
And just so everybody knows, the Russia-phobia stuff, it drives me crazy. Russia has more nuclear weapons than us. I don't know where. I watch on Twitter all the time, and people just don't seem to understand that Russia absolutely does have more nuclear weapons than us. I don't know where people get this from. So to be their enemy, this is just incredibly stupid to create a balancing coalition of Russia, India, and China against the United States. It's retarded. On the highest level. I'm sorry.
And they're seeing it on a live display in Iran.
Yeah.
Where Russia, Chinese ships are right there, right next to U.S. ships at the moment. And various Russian trips and Russian assets are being used in Iran at the moment. That's why that conflict has taken on a whole new dangerous potential because Iran sees it as existential for the whole region.
I saw you, I think it was a week ago, I saw you retweet, what's his name, who said, listen, this is from internal, regime sources. This is a big deal, guys. In the past, they have not viewed the, potential actions the U.S. was going to take as truly threatening to the stability of the regime. Their calculus, they've always said, will change dramatically. In the event that they do, they now do believe that what the U.S. has in store is a threat to the stability of the regime, which means, and this is why Trump held off. I don't know why they just don't tell. Oh, I know why. They don't want to make Bibi look like a fucking maniac like he is, because he lied. He tried telling Trump they had the defenses. No one, Israelis aren't going to be hurt. We're prepared to take a little bit of casualties. And then in a rare form of a display of honesty by some on our own side, which I suspect was the DNI. I do, because who else would tell the truth? They were like, Mr. President, he can't defend Israel at all if the Iranians retaliate with the kind of strike that we expect, because they know if they change that calculus, then they did not retaliate last time, guys. The 12-day war. They didn't retaliate. They're biding their time. They did it intentionally. They're not dumb. The Persian people have been around for a very long time. They're not stupid. They're not maniacs. They're not fanatics the way everyone portrays them to be. They're rational state actors. And if they feel like they're going down, they will unleash they're going to make it pay. They're going to make it hurt. And Netanyahu was just lying to Trump and prepared to kill a bunch of Israelis in order to get this done. Unbelievable. And it serves his purpose, doesn't it, Robert? Because then he could just say that Iran killed a bunch of Israelis when he knew damn well that it would cost that much. The death toll would be that high. And if it wasn't for Trump not being a bloodthirsty maniac, then we would have already saw that. And it would have been horrific, guys. I mean, he's...
And this time, Tulsi Gabbard was in the room when the national security discussion was taking place, and she helped make clear, ask your generals how many of them believe that doing a military strike will have a regime change so Iran can't retaliate throughout the region. And all of a sudden, all those generals who've been talking big, not a single one could raise their hand. To give people an idea, they have unleashed, according to Iranian sources that I've been following, they are planning on not only a mass attack on our U.S. bases, shutting down the Straits of Hormuz so that a third of the oil can't get anywhere near the world, which estimates you'll have oil and gas at least doubling, maybe much higher in that context, and a mass attack on Israel that Israel cannot withstand, as was proven in the last 12-day war.
They can't.
But in addition, unleashing all of the militias and Shia-aligned groups in the region. You're talking Bahrain could collapse. You're talking the issues in Saudi Arabia, which
I was just going to say the Saudis don't want this because of that.
You're talking Iraq turning back into a complete shit show. You're talking about Hezbollah getting off the mat. You're talking about the wide-ranging regional conflict that it could be a nightmare, and that will include Russia and China maybe being directly involved, at a minimum indirectly involved. What are those Chinese ships doing all the way next to U.S. ships as we speak? This could be an utter, and Trump wisely saw hold on a second. This isn't going to be the easy sell that they're telling me it is. But now and then they keep whispering in his ear, and he thinks maybe it could be, maybe it could be.
Yeah.
And that's when we get close to a complete disaster. Politically, domestically, without doubt, I think potentially geopolitically as well.
Yeah, I mean, guys, the assessment is that even if they killed key leaders in the regime and essentially toppled the regime, the problem is the institutions are in fact controlled and loyal to the regime. So you would have to cut the head off the snake and then have the rest of them say, oh, fuck that counterattack. But that's not, the assessment said, nope, that's not going to happen, that they are all going down together and they're going to make it hurt really bad. And guess what? Even when the regime itself falls, guess what doesn't? All of those counterinsurgencies that Barnes was just talking about, we'll be right back to it. I mean, this is why the Saudis are begging Trump not to do this. They don't want this. And it doesn't matter, because the fact is, I don't know why it's considered this, Robert, but, you know, this idea of the Greater Israel Project is like anti-Semitic to talk about or speak about out loud, but it is a real thing. It's a real, I mean, we need to discuss this.
They want to go into Turkey and Egypt next.
Yes.
Bibi's not finished. They want to keep going.
They want parts of Turkey
on steroids.
Yep. They want parts of southeastern Turkey, guys. And they've already started to massage people like Rubio and others in the administration to warm them up to this idea. Just in case you guys never seen it, I know we're really taking a long time. I just want to show them the map. There are very different variations of it, but here's generally what's considered the Greater Israel Project, okay? You can see parts of Egypt, which they want, Jordan, Iraq, Syria, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Iran. Do you guys notice anything here? Does anything like ring a bell to you? These are all the countries we've been trying to conduct regime changes in, and we in fact have invaded in the past, like some of them, all right? So the problem is you can't do this. You can't, this is crazy. I don't know what other word. It's like a delusional crazy. And I just don't know how they think America's going to tolerate this. They're not. But they think now is their time because Trump they got him. He's captured. And if they're going to get any of it, they're going to get it now. So that's why they decided that their agenda was more important than your agenda. And in March, when the ceasefire came to an end and they started lobbying Trump even way before that, but they just dominated you can go and look at the White House schedule. This isn't debatable. This is what they pivoted their focus to, because the donors, because the foreign interests, they wanted their slice of the pie. And they decided that you got enough and you're done. You're not putting America first. You're putting Israel first. And that's it. Like, that's what happened here, guys. You can try to debate it all you want, but either you're lying to people that follow you on social media, you're lying to yourself if you're someone who just follows at home, or you're full of shit. And you're like, that it's true. And you are like intentionally misleading people. But that is what happened. It is. Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, these guys are bought off by foreign entities. And they decided they were going to basically hold Donald Trump hostage. Like, nothing's going through the Senate, including the BBB, until we get some promise for you that there's going to be action. You see Lindsey hyperventilating on Fox the other day? You better do what you promised the people. What are you talking about? Like, who the hell do you think you're speaking to? He's Donald Trump. He could fucking ruin you tomorrow. He could pull his endorsement and endorse Paul Dans, and you're fucking done. And that's what Trump has never understood. He has never understood that. You are in charge, Mr. President. You are literally in the driver's seat. They can't do anything to you. You just don't have people around that are telling you how to properly leverage these, because all of them are also captured. It's it's a tragedy. It's like I'm watching a Greek fucking tragedy. It's a Shakespeare novel, brother. It's a Shakespeare, Well,
I mean, a failed Iran attack could have an even greater impact than the Ukraine war at resetting the global order. Because if Iran is able to successfully repel, then all of us, with the help of Russia and China, then all of a sudden we've got, Asia is united into the Middle East. And the great U.S. empire has been beaten, and the Israeli project has been beaten, and that could reverse. I mean, if you're pro-Israel, you do not want this conflict because Israel's own existence could be at risk because they cannot withstand the retaliation from the Iranian regime with those
Wait them
ballistic
out.
missiles. They could take out the water supply. They could take out your energy supply. You're a small country. What are you going to do without clean water and energy? Good luck. And then to the BRICS question, it will just expand BRICS. I mean, it's because of the Russian sanctions on Russia after 2022 that BRICS took off. BRICS was dead. BRICS was DOA until then. BRICS has taken off because of this, and it's not an alternative currency, and it's alternative. They're using gold as their alternative currency. That's what they're stacking and packing in reserves. And I would say if you're an economic advisor, you're looking at this economically, I've been saying for years now, Richard and I have both been saying for years now, gold's a pretty smart place to be. And I think that's still the case. Much more likely to go up than go down over
Silver
the
was
term, midterm, long term, because of this precise reality. Because BRICS is going to become more and more and more popular, not less.
My wife still pissed at me for not putting more in gold. And so, I redeemed myself with the silver a little bit. I was like, baby, I'm telling you, silver is yet to pop. Did you see silver last week? Woo, woo. Woo. I was like, honey, redemption. Even my jeweler was like, yeah, see, he's done it. He's done it. Because I know she was right. You don't spread your stuff too thin. And that's why I ultimately didn't do that. And it's true. We would have been way better off than but you can't win every time. The longstanding GOP tradition, including Trump, of backstabbing the voters, the Republicans are useless. Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I don't know what else.
In his first term, Trump really didn't do that. He mostly tried to stick with voters. And it's been bad. And his first 4 months, he was sticking with voters.
He was great.
And then he used the Epstein files to flip the script on him. I'm hoping now that he sees the Epstein files were a bluff by the deep state, that he will reverse course correct, and return to the American voter as the priority focus. But we will see.
Even if you're an Israel first person, the irony of it all is that the best course of action for you is to actually just fully embrace America first and support, and I mean America first, because the stronger America becomes, the more you just bide your time. You be like the Persians, be like the Chinese, and bide your time until your enemy falls. Like, because if Donald Trump was successful in basically restoring the greatness of America, their time's numbered anyway. I mean, look at the state of Iran before Joe Biden took over was destitute. I mean, their exports from oil were at an all-time low because Trump ended the exemptions, which are it's like a backdoor way, guys, of getting around sanctions. The French, the Germans, the Chinese, they had exemptions, like they're called SRETs or something. But anyway, their exemptions from those sanctions. So Iran was still collecting the money anyway, and they were still taking Iranian oil. Well, Trump ended them in his first term, and it was bankrupting Iran. They were done. Joe Biden funded with your money. He funded the October attack from Hamas on Israel in the first place, because one of the first things he did when he got in office was remove Donald Trump's policy of no longer handing out exemptions. And he put the exemptions back in place, and Iran raised billions and billions of dollars very quickly. He literally gave them, they were on life support, and he gave them the defibrillator. He brought them back from the dead. I mean, that's it. Do you think the 2028 Dem Party would allow presidential nominations for AOC? Will they rig it against her? They're weak. They're weak. The establishment of the Democratic Party is weak. They no longer. This is why I would warn you when you see people say things like, look at the RNC versus the DNC. Look at the NRCC versus the DCCC. You got to be careful. Democrats no longer centralize their fundraising operations. I mean, Act Blue did away with that, but they go to third-party organizations. They spend the money, and they spend it wiser, by the way. And what is the result of that is that the party establishment, their mechanisms of control, like put in place long-standing by Nancy Pelosi, they've been eviscerated. So that's how Nancy used to whip votes, guys. That's how she could twist arms like nobody else, because all the money went through her. All the money went through. That's over. So like when you see people say, but Republicans raised more, that's bullshit. It's just that you're not tracking the money correctly anymore. So, and we've tried to warn people about this forever, and they just don't understand. And that's why they get taken completely off guard when there are hundreds of Craigslist ads all around the country for ballot chasers in a single state, you know, like hundreds in a single state. Make an extra $400 a week, feed your family, chase Democratic ballots. And it works, you know, I mean, that's how they're doing it. But what do you think, Robert? I mean, the only way I think they could rig it is that Obama is still a big deal. And like, that's how they rigged it against Bernie in 2020. Yeah, for Biden. Obama did it. He made the phone calls and he said, you know, I don't believe Bernie can win. And he got the media single-handedly did this, got the media to enact this narrative, which they needed to convince voters over like a little over 2-week period that Bernie was unelectable. And it worked because in our polling very clearly, even leading up to Super Tuesday, people were telling us they wanted to vote for Bernie, but they think he can't win. So now they're going to vote for Biden. And they beat history doing it because no candidate had won doing that poorly in the first 3 contests. All right. Nobody. I mean, it was pathetic. Nevada, pathetic. Iowa, pathetic. New Hampshire, pathetic. Even Bill Clinton came in, 3rd place in the New Hampshire primary, and he was able to be the comeback kid.
Well, yeah, close second. Yeah, at the end, he used that great
close second. Yeah.
That's right. Exactly.
That's right.
And then he was about to roll into Dixie where he was strong. I would just say, look at Mamdani. The Democratic Institutional Party did not want Mamdani to win, and they couldn't even win in New York City. So that tells you the party institutionally is getting weak, and the populist wing of the Democratic Party is using the Epstein files to take out the Democratic establishment. That's how they took out Larry Summers. They want to take out the rest of the Clinton machine so that all that's left, as Richard notes, is the Obama machine, which is strong, but was never as strong as the Clinton machine. So I think that a Democratic Party primary electorate in 2028 is going to be open and not as fixable and corruptible as it's been in the past.
Yeah. I mean, look, Obama tried to rig 24, and then he was outmaneuvered by Kamala Harris. A lot of people don't know the story. She made, I want to say it was, somebody told me the exact number of phone calls. It was like either 45 or 54, something like that. Over the weekend when Obama was like vacationing, he thought he had like 48 hours to play with himself. And then she outmaneuvered him and took it. And we don't know who Obama wanted, but then you could see Obama ran to the Post and he leaked the story that Harris can't win. And that's why he didn't want Harris. That was his retaliation. By the way, he got the last laugh because she got her ass kicked. But we don't really know who Obama wanted. Of course, the speculation is that he wanted his wife, but his wife is a lazy piece of crap. She's always been a lazy piece of crap. She would never work that hard in her life. By the way, Jolly is right. Shakespeare wrote 0 novels. I tried to recover from that. Jolly, what did I said? Like I meant Shakespearean tragedies, right. Shakespearean tragedy. So I did try to recover from that, but you're right. And it is a novel because it's 10 years long. You know what I'm saying? Like it's literally, that's why in my head I said novel because this has been a decade now.
If you're looking at a Democratic surprise candidate, one of the people that Obama was thinking about running was, the right kind of Hollywood celebrity. And that might be a sneak candidate. Otherwise, Klobuchar is probably a sneak candidate for 2028. That's why she's running for the Minnesota governorship in 2026. She wants to use it as an independent platform. She did decently in Iowa and New Hampshire last time. Yeah. So those are the other candidates to keep an eye on. Traditionally, when there's a major party shift, if it's going against Vance, it's going to be a surprise candidate on the Democrat. Like who saw Trump in 2014? Who saw Bill Clinton in 1990? Who saw Jimmy Carter in 1974? Right. They tend to, if the Democrats are going to win big, it will be somebody you don't really know about or they're talking about right now.
You could see one thing about what's on the board right now that I got up right here is, Gavin is, he's still about 9 points behind Kamala Harris, but he does have a lot of enthusiasm. The problem is there's a max to that because it's all white. It's all white. And there's just
correct. And there's a huge, the black vote is very substantial and they're determined to vote in a bunch of areas. And so is the Hispanic vote. Historically, you looked for which Democratic candidate could win the black and Hispanic, and increasing the Hispanic vote is going to be a part of that. But the black vote, Ro Khanna is planning on running in 2028. Yeah. He's going to be trying to set the agenda on populist issues. So but here's what I'll bet on. Gavin Newsom will never be president of the United States.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's not. And even if he was to somehow do it, and by the way, in order for that to happen, guys, they'd have to again change the calendar. Remember, they front loaded the South for Joe Biden in his reelection, his nomination, because they knew that he would have a very difficult time winning in the traditional Iowa, New Hampshire lineup. So they front loaded South Carolina in the South. He would have to get them to change that. Again, I just don't see that. And even if he did, okay, let me just say, even if he did, I just don't see him winning a general election. Republicans, the country does not like coastal elitist Dukakis-like candidates. They go down and they go down hard. So that may be the best thing that could happen to Vance or something. But I'm telling you, if it's in this environment, I will call JD every day and tell him, don't do it. Because if you look at the numbers, I mean, if you're him, it's going to be hard to resist because you know the nomination at this point is yours. But, you know, we'll see.
I mean, yeah, it goes down harder and faster than Lindsey Graham when he meets Zelensky.
Oh, snap. Hope for the better. He says, so is the administration basically taking your ideas and doing the opposite to send a message? Sometimes I do think that that's going on, Robert. Sometimes I do think that he says, you know, fuck my own voter and, you know, and he's doing that on purpose.
Trump is convinced this is all popular. He's convinced basically he gets constantly fake intel and information from Tony Fabrizio and others that convince him that certain, I mean, it's the one convincing him that Thomas Massey's going to lose by 40 points when Massey's going to win. So it will be fun watching that. It'd be nice to be a fly on the wall the night Thomas Massey wins his renomination from the Republican Party. And it will be a loud message throughout Washington. Trump has never spent more effort, political capital, to take out any Republican than he has Thomas Massey. What happens when Thomas Massey not only wins, but wins easily?
Oh, yeah.
All of a sudden, the whole town realizes Trump has no juice, has no capital. That's why it was such a stupid move. Whatever you think of Massey, whatever you think of the issues, this was a way to prove to all of Washington that you can spike Donald Trump within the own Republican primary and whip him. At that point, no one in the Republican caucus is going to care what Trump thinks at all. Yeah. That's why he's still an opportunity to walk that back. And by golly, he should, or it's going to destroy the political capital he once had.
Brother, they think, I'm telling you, and guys out there, I know for a fact, they think they're going to beat Massey. As a matter of fact, they're joking. They're joking about it. And I'm like, I'm sitting there like, ground control to Major Idiot. He's going to beat you. And by the way, I mean, it could end up being close. We'll see what happens when the money gets spent. I mean, I want to poll it myself, but we all know that Trump's numbers in that district are not what they used to be. They are not. I mean, he's down, and he's down considerably, guys. I mean, I'm talking about among Republicans. Among Republicans, he's down, and it's not, and it's believable because I know where his national numbers are now. The strongly approved numbers are anywhere on a given poll between like 12 to 20% what they were during like his positive +7s kind of time period. So, I mean, he's below a majority that strongly approve on the Republican side. That is not good. Let's see what else. Andrew's telling me, he's suggesting that I know you should just spend the $25K, Rich, and poll Texas because, you know, he thinks Paxton at the end of the day, he's squared against the deep state and he's won. What do you think about that? I got a little hiccup with Paxton. I fucking asked him if you bang those bitches, bro, you got to tell me. And he lied to me. And I'm like, not the guy. Guys, I'm not the guy you have to lie to with that. I just want you to tell me the truth. I don't want you to look at me and then lie to me. And I don't want you to tell your friend of 30 years to lie to me because I trust your friend. It just, I don't know, man. It's, to me, he's the best on policy. It's not even close.
Yeah, exactly. But, and I mean, there's a lot of enemies. He's in a very good position as Attorney General. For example, he's got an issue right now. I represent Dr. Bowden. One of the great COVID question, the doctors who was giving independent, honest, accurate medical information.
Yep.
The Texas Medical Board has corruptly gone after her. His office has an opportunity to fix that in the legal case that we just filed. So if they do things like continue to use the office to promote populist policies and what the voters of Texas want, especially Republican primary voters, on issues like medical freedom. He could add to that issues on food freedom. He could add that issues on antitrust. If he does it that way, he can win the primary and win the general. I will say this. I do think if Corbyn wins, I think Corbyn loses in the general, particularly if it's not what's her name, but is that guy that was on Joe Rogan. If that young lefty populist guy wins the Democratic nomination against Corbyn, he's going to beat Corbyn. Yeah. So it's another race that everybody thinks
Tallarico.
Near safe.
Tallarico,
that's it. If Tallarico gets the nod instead of Dimwit from the Democratic Party side, I think if she gets the nod, the Democrats lose. But I think, exactly. But I think if Tallarico gets it and it's against Corbyn, I think he wins. With the key for Paxton is he's got to use the office to continue to promote the policies that the voters elected him to promote. If he does that, he can. I think he will prevail. If he doesn't do that, then Corbyn could take it, or he could lose in the general. So it's going to be, you've got to maintain consistency with your base, because then you can get over any personal scandals that may be lurking. The professional, it's going to be up to him. So I know there are people in his office that want to do good work. I know he wants to do good work. You just got to deliver. Keep delivering. They'll look past all this stuff, just like they did with Trump and Access Hollywood. But if you don't deliver, that's when you become vulnerable. It looks to me like Wesley Hunt is not gaining much traction.
Yeah. I got to tell you, let's not forget, guys, that Beto O'Rourke would have beaten Ted Cruz in 2018. And it's possible, national mood-wise, that this is worse for Republicans. Let's not forget, MAGA was still behind Trump solidly in 2018, way more than they are now. I'm sorry, but it's true. And they came out and they saved Tel Aviv Ted Cruz, okay? Who, by the way, this is the kind of shit I'm talking about, Robert. All right, OG MAGA versus this shit. Ted Cruz, Axios reports, which I could have told you was true because I know who they're talking about. Ted Cruz talking all sorts of shit about Donald Trump and JD Vance behind their back to these donors at this event, preemptively already blaming them for losing the midterms. And the next day when it's public, Donald Trump suggests that Ted Cruz would be brilliant for the Supreme Court. This is what I'm talking about. This is what Trump does. And it's pissing a lot of people off. They're to the point where it's I'm over this shit. And I hate to tell everybody, but I heard today from a reliable source that there are negotiations for the Cornyn getting the endorsement because Donald Trump wants his vote on the SAVE Act. So be prepared to vomit if you hear this later today or tomorrow. I hope he tells him no. But after everything Paxton has done for Donald Trump and how much he's steadfast supported Donald Trump through everything, that would be the Bannon crew are going to fucking flip. They will flip out. I'm telling you. And Tallarico is only 3 points behind Cornyn in a general. And right now, and I'm telling you, we haven't polled it like Andrew's asking, but if we did, we would have to add that question about whether or not they'd sit out for different candidates. I strongly suspect that Cornyn would be the one who gets the big sit out vote. And that's what happened to Ted Cruz. If it wasn't for new movers and new MAGA who moved to Texas in the last less than 5 years, Ted Cruz would have lost to Beto O'Rourke. It's in the exit polls. You can see for yourself. Mike just says, and I know it's 5:05, that Trump got the most votes out of any president in history combined. That is true. But for comparison, FDR got 104, Obama 135 million, Trump got 214. Of course, Trump did run 3 times, but your point is well taken because Roosevelt, of course, right? Population growth, though, don't forget that. The Chungster, Michael Anton for National Security Advisor, Russ Voigt for Chief of Staff. Also, Rich, I emailed Laura about helping out with the show or BDP, talking about the Yeah, I mean, cool. I'll check it out. I'll look. Oh, let me just say, people, if you have a reoccurring subscription, please make sure, a reoccurring contribution to the Public Polling Project, please make sure it's in the right fund. Stop it if the fund is like already funded and move on to the newer stuff. We still have people who are like reoccurring to old stuff that didn't even fund. Move over to the new ones, please. And make sure if you have one and you don't want one to stop it. Only you have the power to do that. All right. So like other than me handing out massive refunds, which gets annoying. All right. right? That's just go. You all have dashboards. You can sign in and you can track it. You have like the most, and by the way, you can download it for receipt purposes and everything, your entire history. Yeah, I mean, I don't know that people would even take the chief of staff job like Russ Voigt or somebody like that. I don't know that they would, Robert. I mean, the general consensus in the West Wing is that, whether you like Susie or not, if she was to leave, the place would fall apart. Chungster also says that the Trump administration is suffering for the same exact fate as Biden, blinded by success, too high on their own supply. It's funny, Chungster, the poll today from Harvard Harris, Robert, did you see it? Who was the better president? Trump is losing to Biden. So, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the kind of thing smart people should be sharing that directly with the president, because of the kind of thing that will get his attention.
It will definitely get his attention. I mean, the Trump Dread Robert says between the Trump admin hitting the brakes and even reversing, living up to the expectations a few months in, and then seeing the Democrats coming in hard and believe they will follow through in VA, the Trump coalition is completely demoralized. I suspect states like mine look the same. What can be done to reverse that? The Democrats being terrible, I think, will be less motivating than Republicans believe after last generation of garbage. Yeah, it's not going to work, Robert. It's not going to work this time.
You need more. The door is open because of Democratic weakness, but it will not be sufficient to get Republican people to come back out and vote Republican on the independent side. If you want those low propensity votes, those independent, persuadable votes, those votes that think they have nothing in common with either party, you've got to give them a cause. You've got to give them a reason, and that's policy driven.
Yeah, that's a great. I couldn't agree more. Has anybody recommended to Trump to enact his policy to end homelessness? I remember RFK had some cool ideas on this. That's another great thing. I mean, an agenda to end homelessness in America. Like, that's Trump 1.0 written all over it. That's the kind of stuff he talked about. And that's the stuff people, you got to remember, he wasn't popular like he was in the beginning of this administration. He wasn't popular back then, but his ideas were super popular. And that was the whole point of why he won in such big fashion in 24, because again, it was like voters were saying, oh, we messed up. We messed up. You were right all along. We need Trump back. That was the whole point. So to be a smarter Trump 1.0, learn from your mistakes, be able to control the government more, Robert, not be a totally different person. Like going from, I hate H-1Bs, we got to reform this shit, it's a scam, to, we don't have talent in America. Like, what? Like that, the H-1B thing really hurt him too. We always focus on like Epstein, Iran. The H-1B thing though, that was bad. When he said, we don't have talent here. Like that's another thing we hear every single poll, every single one. That's another thing. The Four Freedoms poll changed the makeup of the coalition when Charlie got it and shoved it into the donors' hands, making Maha a thing. We went from a nail biter to an election that was over at 9 p.m. Thanks for pointing that out. Will the 1776 law center and big data ever make that sheet available in the sweaty, unwashed masses? It is. It's been out for a long time. I have the actual crosstabs, I think, sitting right here. Let me give them to you. It's on. Here you go, locals. Here it is. Yeah, we made this. Now the sheet, the write-up, I'm not even sure it exists anymore, Robert. I don't even think
because we're planning on updating it anyway to include like a big published report with graphs when we do the new updated poll this month.
And here, YouTube, there you go for you guys. Rumble, I'll punch it out to you, Getter. I mean, that's been out a while. I mean, I just don't have it. I don't think I ever put it on Big Data Poll's website. You did though. 1776. It went out in a press release. Yeah. What else? I know you guys keep adding, but I mean, can't keep Robert much longer. It's 10 after 5. Rich, I think here's a positive one. Let's take a positive one. Rich, Robert, I think MAGA will turn around this cycle and beyond, despite all the challenges laid out. Your warnings make you turn around more likely than not. I mean, look, we're optimists, I mean, we hope that that's the case.
Absolutely. And the opportunity is present. They just got to seize it. And all we can do is provide the intel and information as to why it's actionable and useful.
Yeah. And then I got to end with a more realistic comment from Dread. Okay. And look, it's not realistic. It's just like, they're two competing views and we should add them like this. All the wrong people. That's Cope. Trump is hearing what he wants, and the policies are his. His endorsements line up with his policies. He spouts off from time to time, but look at what he does, which is America last, which he occasionally pulls back from at the last minute. So suckers give him credit for pulling out of situations of his own design, which is what Iran is. Where is the error in this analysis? Shit. I mean, no flaw in your logic, ChatGPT says. I mean, I see it the same way. I mean, am I wrong, Robert? And then like these like sycophants pretend like it was 4D chess all along. And those who know Trump know that that's not true. There's no 4D chess going on. It never has been going on. That's not who Trump is.
Correct. I mean, I'm a born again Baptist in the great utility, so I believe in deathbed conversions. And the great utility of Trump, sometimes the great vice of Trump, is he can turn on the dime. The man is not ideologically really committed to anything. And that can be useful. It can be dangerous, but it also can be useful. So let's hope Trump listens to the better angels of his nature and follows the MAGA voters back to the promised land. Yeah. And all we can do is try to advocate for that, but also advocate it for all those primary candidates and people looking past Trump, because it's starting to be time to look past Trump. What's the post-Trump era? Yeah. There's ways to make a lot of difference at the local, state, and federal level going forward. The populist movement is here to stay. The only question is what direction it takes. And that direction will depend heavily on what all of us do on a day-to-day basis going forward, even more so in the future than Trump, who will be an ex-president in just a few years.
Speaking of which, looking forward and all of that, I'm putting this up. Don't forget, attend if you can. Go to MinnesotaLincolnReaganDinner.com, March 21st. We're going to crush it. We're going to have a lot of fun. Again, it's Minnesota Lincoln Reagan Dinner. Robert and I are going to be there.
With Maureen Bannon, the daughter of Steve Bannon.
That's right. I'm really looking forward. This is going to be one heck of a night. I may actually bust the vice president's chops to make a surprise visit, although he'll have to sit through us railing against the administration for 45 minutes apiece. He's a good sport, you know, like he gets it, bro. He gets it. But yeah, go check it out, guys. It's up there one more time. If you can, we'd love to see you out there. It's going to be a lot of fun. With that in mind, don't forget to go check out, obviously, Robert's site on Locals too. Man, we did like a crazy long show here. I just want to say, I didn't get a chance to say this before. Hold on one second. One last thing here, Robert. Brian Cole's a patsy. Okay, here is look. Poor Viva's all on his own here. That is Brian Jerome Cole. That is his real middle name. This is this alleged pipe bomber. This is his, and I didn't want to give away some things, okay? But you can tell he is 30 years old. That is his birthday that I had to black out. All right. That is his family household voter registration. You can see they are all Democrats. All right. He has 3 vote histories. If there's no party registration in the state of Virginia, how do we get your party affiliation? By several things. They can include donations to political groups, party participation, because when you go to vote in a primary in Virginia, you must pull a certain party's ballot. Never has Brian Jerome Cole cast any of those 3 votes to indicate he is a Trump supporter. All right. He is very clearly, and I hate to say this, but Democrats take advantage of mentally challenged people a lot. So this didn't surprise me at all to see. He hasn't even really been that active. He was registered right at that date that you see. There is no chance he is a Trump supporter. When I say no chance, I mean 0 fucking chance. All right. These things aren't even machine learning anymore. It's AI. We rip through attributes and attributes attached to his voter file, his DMV information, his consumer information. He is a Democrat. This is his whole family they're Democrats. This is crazy. I just can't keep. I mean, Robert, this is Cash is like just so depressing. Like Liz Harrington is right. Like when her assessment, and it's a shame. She worked for Trump for years. She was the Trump campaign spokesman for the president his first time around. You know, even she's checked out because like you just can't. It's not that she's checked out of MAGA. She's checked out of this con. This is a con. Like what Cash is doing and what Bondi is doing, it's a con. And it's more Bondi, of course, but this is this is Democrat shit, Robert. You frame a mentally challenged person for what I'm with you. I think we know who the real bomber was, the real pipe bomber was, and you got rewarded for your efforts by moving from one agency to another, which doesn't always happen, does it? I mean, you don't see many people jump, bro, from being like a Metro cop to being in Langley. Like, it just doesn't happen very often. Come on. I just don't, whatever. All right, where can people go ahead. You had something.
I was just gonna say, for Super Bowl picks, we've had 4 out of 5 successes, or ongoing political prediction market picks. That's all at sportspicks.locals.com right there. Yep. And then remember to continue to support the big data polling project so we can get honest, accurate intel information to you and to the people in Washington, D.C., so that they know what path is the actual popular path to take. That's continuing to support the big data polling project and peoplespundit.locals.com. So thanks, everybody, and we'll be back next month for another edition of What Are the Odds?
All the best, Robert. I'll see you soon, brother.
Take care.
Thanks. Whoa, 2 hours and 3 hours and 15 minutes. Holy load. All right, there it is, guys. Don't forget to go check out the latest graphic when we're talking about enthusiasm and certainty to vote. All right, I'm going to let you guys go and enjoy your dinner and the rest of your evening with your family and friends. Thanks, as always, for watching. Don't forget, if you like the videos, to like them, to share them far and wide. And I got one more ask for you. I have a new gram that my daughter set up. She's totally writing it in Instagram. All right. I think it's probably not even in the profile, but it is easy. Peoples_pundit on Instagram. Go check it out. Go follow over there. And I'm going to start doing a lot of like little small clips and stuff, but I got to build the following up first. All right. But yeah. All right. So that's my last guess. In the meantime, like I said, enjoy the rest of your evening. Thanks to Robert for giving so much of his time. And I'll see you guys next month for What Are the Odds, and tomorrow for Inside the Numbers. All the best, fam. See you later.